मैं earliest civil servants from Nepal, Mr. Farali. So I want to know from you, is there any space, is there any policy framework to promote languages and literature in Nepal?
Thank you very much. Indeed, really pleasure to be in conversation on this topic. I'm coming from my experience as an international civil servant, having lived in about 11 countries and traveled in about 100 countries. The impact of language, literature, and then the involvement of power and policy and platform like this, for example. In that context, I would say some experiences in life. There are many groups globally, like Francophone, Lusophone, or English speakers. They come together, join together, and that's already an example of binding societies. And the governments, some of these governments who are, really investing in promoting that language and literature. So indeed, therefore, politics is a crucial role, including policies. I mean, if you see French language, correct? They have Alliance Française. In many countries, they promote language, and that binds together. Um, I was learning French. I was learning French for many years. I went to Paris to learn. But that happened because the government facilitated. They invested it, and you will see it. Uh, these these reinforcement brings countries together. So therefore, the commitment, there is an attraction and also interest. Lusophone, for example, the Portuguese speakers, the former Portuguese colonies, they still keep that relationship binded together by promoting the Lusophone culture. Etc. So I would say, you know, uh, power plays a role, the politics plays a role, the policy of the government plays a role. With that comes the funding and etc. Increasingly, for example, India with its Hindi also promoting it. And not only language, the culture, the dances, for example. In some of the countries where I have been, the Indian embassies are promoting Hindi Bharatanatyam dances and also now yoga. It's a part of that culture. Um, 21st June, I think, is the day of yoga globally, agreed by United Nations General Assembly, etc. So that could happen only with the investment and policy of the government of India, and that brings the global community together in a positive way and identifies India from that angle. And I would also say that with it comes the investment and provision and supplies of books and efforts in terms of teachers. For example, China, if you look at China, they are investing a lot of efforts these days to teach Chinese languages. I've seen in some of the countries in Africa, students they go to China, scholarship and all, learn fluent Chinese. And another thing is avenues like these literary festivals, promoting culture. We have this in Kathmandu, the Kalinga Literature Festival. It has brought lots of eminent personalities in Kathmandu and introduced Kalinga in a very positive way. So of course, it is the government, but it's also organizations and society and private sector, all these investors contributing CSR fund and other things. So I would say, there is of course, a place, but there is a need for an effort, and there is also need for commitment and investment, and it's in a way brings society together, people together, and bringing common platform, common binding, etc.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balaji. And it was a very sad to be a part of Kathmandu. It is another Kalyan festival, and I saw the enthusiasm, the inclusiveness, the exchange between Nepalese and Indian, in particular Odia culture. So now coming to Bhavani. Bhavani is working in corporate sector, he is from Odisha. So recently, government of Odisha has come out with a grand celebration of Odia language, the first World Odia Conference is concluded recently, and government of the day is going to election with the slogan of Odia identity and Odia pride. So language is the center of politics in Odisha now. So how do you see that? Is it an important policy shift, or it is again a kind of political documentation that we see in every government, in every policy sector?
So let me decipher first with the three terms called power, policy, and platform. Okay. Let me start with power. So there are two kinds of power we talk about, which is hard power and another is soft power. The language and literature represent the power or soft power, which emotionally connect with people, which remains is forever. Now let's compare to the comment of Odisha and whether it is a tokenism or it is a long-term vision. So if you look at across different places, different states, different nations, you don't have a vision around language. Okay? So very few countries who have a language vision. And that language vision is nothing but saying that hey, we are a race, this language is unique, and we are going to create a definitive statement around what kind of culture we want to be. In case of Odisha government, if you look at, there is always a possibility of look east. Look east is about the culture and language you are going to promote. And Odisha, especially, we believe because of the strong heritage around the way we have interacted with the global audience in the past through our, Pali and Java and Sumatra policy, we could easily assimilate some of the language and culture thing towards the east, where we bring those we break those culture barriers, language barriers, and build the hard power into the soft power. That's one. The language vision can be also in a possible way that how do you create? There are a lot of literature around, Karnak literature is there, Buddha literature is there, and how do we preserve them, build it in a such a way that it becomes acceptable globally. The third thing, so if I give you a recent example, one of my mentor who stayed outside wanted a book on all the devotees of Jagannath. So we know about Rastamali, we know about Sarvada. But all of you are aware that there is a book called Rajendra Bhakti. It has got lot of stories about Jagannath, starting from Raghunath to Balaram to and if you ask my child also, he may not know those stories. So how do we make this story popular and make people understand what Jagannath culture is? So there are three meanings that you paraphrase. One is creating hard power, which is soft power, which is language and culture. Number two, say that we create thought leadership and build the East policy. And number three, we say that how do you inspire the next generation?
very, very pertinent, very uh, hitting the right line. You're talking about Data Therapy. Data Therapy is all about bringing people to the mainstream who are thrown away from the mainstream. All those bhaktas from whom the temple door was closed, God has moved them. So that is a very, very interesting text in India. But my question to the primary again in a very different answer and in a different context. When we talk about language and literature, we always focus on the language of majority. Suppose we are talking about India, then it is Hindi. We are talking about Odisha, it is Odia. But in every, particularly Asian countries, you can see that the mosaic of languages and minds of languages. In Odisha, Odia is the dominating language, but there is a mosaic of languages like there is Santali, there is Bo, there is Soga, there is Kui. So Kui is a language spoken by more than 5 million people, but nobody knows what Kui is. And I'm sure in Nepal also can happen. Nepali is the language used by majority, but there are many tribal languages in Nepal. So how to include all those small language groups? How to bring them into the mainstream and to make as a part of policy, part of government framework?
Thank you. I think it's the point you raised about indeed keeping all different languages, culture alive and vibrant and supporting enriching the society. That is undoubtedly very important. However, what is also essential is how do you make these languages or culture alive? Is through different modes, be it cinema, be it different dance or dramas, or books and those. Sometimes when you have a very small community involved in that, maybe it's investment is more needed. So it's not always physical. But with the internet system now, digital system, I think we have a lot of opportunities. I remember going to Indian cultural center in Kathmandu, reading Hindi, for example. And we have, abundance of Hindi films, South Indian films and others, but more majority in Hindi, and that gets also subtitle I've seen in Africa people talking about, all sort of names of Hollywood actors and actresses because they're watching Hindi films. They're very popular. So this is part of the, the platform we're talking about now, which is promoting language and literature through its different avenues. Be it film, be it special efforts, dances, or cultural events, or cultural efforts, visits, country level visits and exchanges. So I would say in the context of maybe promoting, India is a continent, it's not a country. Odisha with the population, say like Nepal almost, diverse. So diversity is important, and there too, I mean, research is always a challenge to make everything. But I think nowadays, everybody takes a pride in their little specific identities. And when we have a free society, democratic society, and promotion of that, it becomes vibrant. So there is a need for a space and a policy to promote that. I mean, India, you have officially how many languages? 22 or 24 languages. So that's a good thing, and it's necessary because for a country like this, maybe more even in future probably. As a policy, that element is necessary. And then, I mean, for policy to happen, then also politics is important. How are you, 230 million people in UP with how many languages probably, and it brings more influence compared to maybe a small unit territory, etc., in the broader sense of bringing that as a national language. And in terms of platforms, I would say we have so much going on and happening. This morning when we heard about Ramayana, we heard of a story of films and understanding that there was a reference to the youth in the film, if you remember. We have that from a diversity point of view. That brings so much abundance in terms of opportunities, learning, and those. So I would say, politics is important, policy is important, but various platforms, and we need to do this. And there are opportunities, and it brings sort of ethnic groups together, the countries together, as I was referring to the various language groups, cultural groups, tribal groups together, and that's what is humanity about, enrichment with diversity. Thank you.
Thank you once again, and now going to Dhawan. Again, the same question that, when you promote majority and majority languages, we always explore the minority languages, particularly tribal languages. And the other one is, since you are from the corporate sector, you have worked with many corporate leaders. Do you see any avenue in corporate sector where there is a space for language literature? I have seen many corporates, they only feel that sponsoring events is their only responsibility. But in the new technology, in the era of artificial intelligence, you need a concrete language policy. How to use language? In the era of artificial intelligence, language is going to be the most crucial element. So, how do you see that?
So, I will answer this question on two different levels. Okay. So, let me divide the language usage in three parts actually. The language, a certain language you use for transaction, certain language you use for profession, and certain language which evokes emotion. Right? So, always we have in our mind that there's an either or. So, either this language or that language. Why can it be and? That and is basically if I speak in Odia, I transact in Hindi, and when I am in my office, I speak in English to make my professional discussion happen. So most of the time, we people struggle to differentiate that and how do we transact in English? Because there is a black and white, view about that how do you create differentiation. That's one. The second thing, if you look at the advent of LLM, which is large language models like ChatGPT and artificial general intelligence, what will happen is the language barrier would drop. the same thing what you are, for example, I will say that give me a story about Raghuman in ChatGPT. It can give me in English. If I ask that, can you rephrase it and give me in Odia? That also can be possible. So the language line would blur in the future, saying that how you are going to do transaction, professional, and emotion. Coming back to using the language, which is basically the Kui or other languages, which are beautiful languages. And the languages, the more languages we have, it is going to enrich ourselves. So the most of the time, in the last 20-25 years, what happened is there is left brain and right brain struggle that has happened. And that right brain struggle and left brain struggle has made us to think that no, only the way to go is the robotic way. This is the way language has to be learned, this is the way language will provide you jobs. Now my question to all the audience and the people who are actually watching this, that does language create some kind of creativity? Because in Odia language you have 49 actually words, what 49 in there. But in English you have 26. So how do you look at from the perspective of 26, 49? So how do you balance that? So it is beautiful that one language refer to 26 alphabet and another language refer to 49 alphabets. That's what the difference is. If we appreciate the fact that we can coexist by having different languages, different type of understanding of those languages, then we can excel.
Okay. Now coming to the last leg of this discussion, what would be your critical suggestion to promote language and literature? We are talking about language, but we are going to talk about literature. So, literature, every government has some academies, some literary institutions. But a large number of writers, they always have the feeling that they are left out. So, how we can promote an inclusive and larger literature policy in governments?
Thank you very much. The countries in this region, as well as, of course, India, if you look at it, the statistics in terms of education and literacy, basic literacy, from the last several years to now, there has been so much improvement. The gap between the girls and boys has been narrowed down. In primary school, secondary school, colleges and universities, there is still much more room to have the balanced gender at a higher level, because in certain part of the rural communities and others, the girls are getting married earlier and they're not going to get the university degree, etc. So therefore, one is obviously that's the basic in terms of improving literature and from a literature point of view. So investing, encouraging program policies to bring a certain level of education, I think, is fundamental. And education policy is very fundamental. Second is obviously in that context, investment in schools, education budget, encouragement of various institutions, private universities. I mean, there are all lots of them coming up now, so that's a very positive thing. The third thing is also private sector engagement, encouragement into education, different efforts to promote literature, languages. Obviously, they want to see some benefit out of it coming as well. And initiatives like these, festivals, are very important. Commercial, you see the book, book publishers, lots of books are coming in. They take risks publishing books, and that generates interest. and it also promotes in different languages. So I think, and creating also, my wife is an early childhood educator. She promotes a lot about teaching children, starting from early age, about the interest to learn, read. I'll tell you, our kids at a certain time where when we buy new books, we will not see them until they finish the book. They would sit in a corner and read. So we are able to generate that interest and energy from early years, I think we promote more literary society and etc. So we have to invest at a different level, in a different ways, and not one avenues, but multiple avenues. So with the digital system now, IT, I didn't have huge opportunities to learn and exploit that. I remember I was in Bombay once, and I was told by this company that they have a meaning of technology, and they can provide teachers the tool in the classroom with the Wi-Fi and IT, which never existed before. So maximizing using these technologies to learning and teaching. Thank you.
So, Bhavani, your last comment on, particularly I want to know what would be your suggestion to comment on this, or to people what is your critical input, or what is your suggestion to improve more literary activity or inclusive language policy? What should be, what are the points that you want to make?
So, I started with that, start with the language design. So, there has to be a large umbrella where you say that this is our language design. Once that happens, for example, we have many challenges in different pockets. That how do you attract young people to this literary circle? How do you attract young people to be mentored by authors like you who want to make a living out of literature? That's one. Number two, these literary festivals obviously makes sense in terms of bringing different authors, global speakers into one podium. But in a sense that these speakers when they come and the people have the opportunity. So the other side, the kids who come here has to leverage that opportunity. And how do you create that awareness? That's number two. Number two, from government perspective, government can never drive the culture. Government can create policies. The culture has to be driven by citizens. So at home, your parents. In the public places, there are others. And in generally the discussion actually with the society, with the city. For example, I was in France actually 2 months before, and there are people who play violin on a moving train, and people go there and listen and they appreciate that. How do you build that kind of a culture where people say that okay, literature is not a means to life or way to life?
Literature is a way to life, and I think that's a good line to end this session. Few days back, I was in Mumbai Literature Festival, Mumbai Poetry Festival, and in fact, from Latin America, Victor Rodriguez Nunes, I decided one of my Odia poetry, and he said, for the last time I heard that there is a language called Odia exists. So at the same time, we are organizing here the World Korea Conference. So, the way we look at our language or our literature, and in terms of government promotion, we must look at how to reach the larger audience, how to open the window to a bigger world, to a bigger sky. So that is the biggest challenge, and any language conference or any literary activity shouldn't be a mere tokenism, rather it should be a way of life. Bhavani Research. So thank you very much, Mr. Kalari, and thank you, Bhavani, for being with us. And it's always wonderful talking to you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Thank you, Kedarji.
Thank you very much. Over to you.
So now the next interesting session will be on the echoes of Ram and Jagannath in our sacred texts. So without much ado, I would invite our moderator, Srimati Lipika Bhushanji, to the stage, and our speakers, Hindol Sen Gupta, Shantanu Gupta, Lipi Parida, Nidhi Gargji. Please welcome to the stage. Audience. So Dr. Hindol is a historian, journalist, and author. He's the editor at large at Fortune India and has also been a senior journalist with leading broadcasters and publications. His works include Being Hindu, that received the Wilbur Award from the Religion Communicators Council of America, The Man Who Saved India, Sardar Patel and His Idea of India, awarded as Best Work of Non-Fiction by the Valley of Word Literary Festival, Recasting India, shortlisted for Hayek Prize, given by the Manhattan Institute. Shantanu Gupta worked as a consultant for many years in India and abroad. He started his social career with Nandi Foundation. He's also the founder of Ramayana School, and he's authored books like India's Football Dream, Education Policy in India, Voice Choice, and Incentives, Man Ki Baat, and Uttar Pradesh, Vikas Ki Pratiksha Mein. He also wrote The Monk Who Became Chief Minister about Yogi Adityanath. Lipi Parida is an acclaimed artist, author, and social change ambassador. She hails from the family of the renowned poet Fakir Muhammad Senapati. And then Dr. Nidhi Garg, she is a counseling psychologist, a life coach, and management researcher with a PhD from KIT University. Finally, our moderator, Lipika Bhushanji, she's an award-winning senior publishing specialist and the founder and CEO of Market My Book, a top publicity and digital marketing business for writers and publishers. He's here. So maybe one of the volunteers could go and summon Hindolji. He's around here only. Hindol ji, Dr. Hindol. Maybe you could start.
Namaskar, it's right after lunch, so I'm sure everybody is kind of feeling sleepy, and it's a Saturday afternoon. We'll try to keep the conversation exciting and engaging enough for all of you to stay awake, I'm sure. Do we have Hindol joining in? Okay. All right, so the topic today is Divine Dialogues, Echoes of Ram and Jagannath in Sacred Texts. We belong to a Rashtra which has its social and cultural fabrics reflecting the faith in divine. We are naturally inclined to be, always looking up for some divine intervention. Right from up north with the Surya temple to south, a deep south, there is a thread of this very faith that binds us all. It also, interestingly, allows us to retell stories. It also gives us the freedom to interpret the stories and the folklore of Bhagwan Ram and Bhagwan Jagannath. Up until, say, a decade ago, I think we all heard about the grand Jagannath Yatra here in Odisha, but it was very rare to find something like that happening in Delhi. But you'll be amazed to know that up in the north, over the last couple of years, we have communities take out Jagannath Rath Yatra offering their respects and paying their respects in their own little ways when we have the Jagannath Yatra happening here in Odisha. Uh, so coming back to that, I think the faith allows us to retell these stories. There is a lot of folklore which locally gets generated over a period of time and is passed on from generations to generations. And there is a lot of interweaving between the sacred texts and the folklore. And today I have with me a very distinguished panel. We will be talking to them and getting to know more about this very aspect of how and why is it important. What is it that we should know about the sacred texts from on both Sri Ram and Bhagwan Jagannath, and how and why is it important to retell these stories? So, beginning this conversation with my first question, and that question probably I would like to direct to the lone man today here in the all women, so far all women panel, is that why Shantanu, there was the Ramayana written by Valmiki ji. And he was the contemporary then, so he actually wrote as it happened. But there was then the Ramayana written by Tulsidas ji. And then thereafter, in between, even before and after, and even now, today, people have their own interpretations of Ramayana. Why do you think that there is a need to retell these stories in today's times or in any era or time in your own way?
Thank you. Basically, like hardly maybe a couple of kilometers away in Noida, in UP, and we are waiting in this and that's okay. I have to increase my numbers. Our numbers, famous numbers, I got it, and we can this number. So that's good. Yeah, we will balance it out. So I think that's a very pertinent question. A lot of people do inquire this question that why Ramayana is, I think one of the only texts or one of the important texts that is interpreted so many times, right? And multiple renditions of Ramayana are very, very famous, right? Like Tulsi Ramayana. In fact, Tulsi Ramayana, Tulsi Ramayana, Ramcharitmanas, a lot of people call it Manas. It's so popular that if you go to Ayodhya, people only quote the chapais of Tulsi Ramayana. Really, people will talk, some traditional scholars will talk about Valmiki Ramayana. And the question is, why? Like, why there is a need of interpreting Ramayana so many times? Right? There's a Dhatha Ramayana, there's a Kama Ramayana, there's a Raghu, there's multiple others. In fact, so much so that outside India there are Ramayanas. So Thailand, you know the country of Thailand, it's a Buddhist country. And their national book is Ramayana. It's for Ramakien. You know Indonesia? 90% of people in Indonesia follow Islam as a faith. And they have their own Ramayana, Kaaba and Ramayana. Philippines have their own Ramayana, Sri Lanka have their own Ramayana. So not only different parts of India have their Ramayana, even different parts of the world have their Ramayana. Right? In fact, in Thailand, it becomes so much so that their current kings are called Rama 1, Rama 2, and the current king is Rama 10. So means the good governance is equated to Rama so much that he became a title. Can you imagine that? That your deed just so big that you become a title. Right? Tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, the best anchor for modernity will be called Libra. Right? So that. And now the question is why there is a need? Right? I think if you see the fundamental treatment, in my bio, she said, I am Yogi Adityanath's father. Right? I am contemporary to Yogi Adityanath. Meaning, I can go to see him, I talk to him, and I can get his stories from him. Right? Once there is someone writing about Yogi Adityanath after 400 or 500 years, he might become a cult by then. Right? He might become a god by then, or he might become a Mahapurush by then. Right? Similarly, the treatment of Rishi Valmiki and Tulsidas. When Rishi Valmiki wrote, Rishi Valmiki was contemporary of Rama. He was, in fact, living very near to him. Like, Kanpur, Petro, you know, using geography, that's not very far from current highways. Right? Maybe current modern traffic will be what? 3-4 hours, right? And he had a direct source. Direct source was from Madhusita. Madhusita was living in Rishi Valmiki's ashram. Right? And not all the people were contemporary. You can quote Rami, Sadhu, you can talk about Rama. So that's a direct source. And he was writing about a good thing, not about God. Was it Acharya Tulsidas Valmiki and for Tulsidas. And also by the time, welcome. I was feeling quite alone in this room.
I got very confused about which session is
No, thank you. So,
Thank
yeah. And also by the time Tulsi existed, Mughals were there, Sanskrit was diminishing, the glory of Rama was diminishing. That's why you will find Tulsi Ramayana as a glorifying Ramayana versus a very too realistic Ramayana which is Valmiki Ramayana. And so that's the need of retelling of the story multiple times. In fact, I remember in those days when you were launching your Sardar film, that people say, why has to return? Every generation needs to return in their context, in their time, using their examples, using their vision, what they laugh at, what they get angry at, very different in different generations. I think that's the need of retelling Ramayana.
From there, Dr. Lippi, actually, I would like to ask you that, and specifically about Bhagwan Jagannath, and since you're researching on that subject, about the scriptures and the folklore, the bit that I asked about, what is between the scriptures and the folklore, which you found was similar and yet different, and what errors actually brought about that difference and why? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Deepika. Glad to talk about my favorite topic, Lord Jagannath. And we just spoke of divine intervention. And then we have this story for India folklore, which goes to say that there was a conflict between the king of Puri and the Tamil king. So the Tamil, the Oriya king, Purushottam Dev, wanted to marry the king's daughter. Actually, the king wanted to give his daughter in hand to the king of Odisha. But then his minister comes to visit the king, and during the Rath Yatra, he sees the king sweeping the floor of the Lord Jagannath's chariot. And he says, my God, this man is a sweeper, he is no king. And they break off the proposal. And the king of Odisha is deeply saddened. And then he goes into his chambers and he calls out to Lord Jagannath. And he says, Lord, please show them who you are. Prove to them who you are and that I am no commoner. And show them how special I am to you. And the Lord appears in the dream of King Purushottam and says, go. Go, you will. And Purushottam Dev, the king of Odisha, goes forth to conquer Kanchi, the king of Kanchi. And once he has already attacked Kanchi and lost. But again, with the reassurance of Lord Jagannath, he goes to conquer Kanchi. And he's on the way where he meets this lady who's selling curds, Manika. And Manika says, okay, no, the king asked for some curd. And she says, do you have some money to give you? So the king says, no. And Manika, the curd seller, says that look, somebody went before you and he gave this. And she shows the ring to the king. And it is actually Lord Jagannath's main ring, which the king recognizes immediately. And the king wins Kanchi, conquers Kanchi, and marries the princess. So this is the story of divine intervention. And the whole of Oriya folklore, the paintings, there is a village by that name, and the whole of the Oriya folklore is revolving around this dream of the Lord of Odisha, the king of Puri.
Yeah.
And so this is something which is known to every Oriya, and around which many stories are woven. And nobody thinks that this is folklore. This is actually considered as reality. So, this is a story of divine intervention, and people accept it to be true. They don't think that it is just folklore.
It's remained in their collective consciousness and handed down. Yeah.
It's been handed down orally, and people know it to be a great truth because all our paintings, the village of that curd seller, which was named after the curd seller, the king presented that village to her. It's come down in history where Lord Jagannath intervened on the request of the king to show the king of Kanchi that he was with the king of Puri. So now I think you can go to the next.
Yeah. Hindol, this is a point where I would like to bring you in, because right now, so far, we were talking about faith and about the divine. But I would like to ask you, because on 22nd January, the entire nation saw celebrating second Deepavali within a year, when Ayodhya was inaugurated and when Lord Ram, the Pran Pratishtha happened. It was a battle of 500 odd years. It was a battle where I think generations committed to that battle. But today, there is a conversation around the politics of it. How much do you think of this entire scenario that unfolded in front of us, this grand thing, was politics, and how much of it was really social?
First, let me apologize for coming late on this panel. I don't know whether Rashmi is here. If he's not here, I can say something. I don't come to Kalinga Lit Fest, to be honest, to come and speak to all of you. I come to Kalinga Lit Fest to come to Bhubaneswar to eat the bhog at the Ananta Vasudeva. That is the honest truth. I don't want to say it in front of the festival organizers, but that is the truth. That is so much the truth that my Twitter audience also knows this. The moment I said this today in the morning that I'm coming to Bhubaneswar, tons of people pointed out that now I'm going to go and have the book. One comes to your beautiful land and to your beautiful city, a very pious and holy city where, I remember when let me contextualize all of this. When I was younger and, I was traveling around the world for work and so on and so forth, I went to Rome. In Rome, they take great pride that any street you turn, you will see this old ancient thing. It could be a monument, it could be whatever, right? An old building, something, right? And they take great pride that Rome is like this. In India, we have so much of this that we ourselves don't know and we don't value. Look at your beautiful city. When I go around your city, every nook and corner, literally once I was going to the Ananta Vasudeva temple and the car took some turn and I saw some board which said this is a 9th century temple. And I told the lady who was with me, forget people from outside. Many people from Orissa also might not value this. This is the tragedy of our country, right? But I think all this is changing. The good thing is all this is changing. And now let me come to the question that Lipika so kindly asked. Look, the Ramayana is not merely India's heritage. The Ramayana is global heritage. We talk about cultural properties that belong to humanity as a whole. The Ramayana is one such cultural property. And don't believe this just because I am saying this. There is enough empirical evidence of this. I was just instrumental in getting a book published by an Oxford junior of mine called Ram, A Global History. Why Ram, A Global History? Because across Southeast Asia, let's begin with Southeast Asia. Across Southeast Asia, you will find countless varieties of the Ramayana. There is a variety of the Ramayana in Sri Lanka. There is one in Cambodia. There is one in Bali. There is one in Myanmar, which is Burma. There is one in there's one in Bhutan, there is one in Japan, there is one in South Korea. Every part, right, that Indian civilization touched, the Ramayana, there is a version of the Ramayana, right? Do you know that in Southall, in England, black sorority sisters at one point a few decades ago, who were demanding equity for women and equality in society, the examples that they used were from the Ramayana to say that this is how women must be treated, treasured, respected. Now, all of this is entirely lost to us. When this junior of mine from Oxford began to dig the story, all of this came out. I also didn't know this, by the way. So this is a global heritage that we happen to have and we should treasure. Do we value it enough?
Perhaps not, we should value it much more, and much more work should be done. People like Shantanu are doing some great, wonderful work, and many others hopefully will do it. Now, is there politics? The last part of the question. Look, I actually think this question of whether there is politics or not, slightly, how should I put it? A slightly baseline, because look, as we know, there is politics in everything. Today, if I were to sit under a tree, deep inside a forest, and chant like Hanumanji the name of Prabhu Shri Ram, perhaps there would be no politics, but perhaps even then there might be some politics. Right? But anything that you do in the world, आप समाज के साथ जो भी करेंगे, उसमें politics तो होगा. But recently my latest book got released in Delhi, and Professor Kapil Kapoor, who's one of the legendary scholars of Indian knowledge system, he was saying that देखो राजनीति शब्द जो है, because we talk about political nihilism, राजनीति has become a bad word. But then think about this, right? Rajniti comes from Raj Dharma. If you read Raj Dharma, there is a particular sanctity, there is a particular sacredness to Raj Dharma. It is the dharma of a Raja. If he or she violates that dharma, they are unfit to reign. अब आज हम उसको, we brought it down to a particular pedestrian level of politics. That's a different story. But by itself, Raj Dharma is something to be treasured. So therefore, I look at, and I said this on many platforms, Deepika, I'm happy to mention it here, the coming of the Ram temple in the Pran Pratishtha of Prabhu Shri Ram in Ayodhya is the coming of India's second republic. It is in a sense the rebirth of India. Our second republic, which will be hopefully be, born out of dharmic principles. This is a very important moment in our history. We should look at it like that. There will be politics, but we are human beings. We are flawed human beings. Therefore, there will be some of that. Thank you.
You're a psychologist, and I would now probably shift from the divine and the politics of it to the more the kind of effect it has on the nation and its people. Whether it is the preparations for Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra, or whether it was the preparations for the inauguration of Prabhu Shri Ram's temple in Ayodhya. What do you think worked for people to go into this kind of frenzy? They all came together despite their differences. They're coming from different walks of life. There was Mukesh Ambani sitting there with the sadhus and Naga Babas there. So what do you think psychologically, how does that happen? What works when people come together? I mean, we do hear of the cases of, the Rath, there are some incidents that happen when the Rath Yatra happens. And yet, year on year, there are lakhs and lakhs of people there, coming there together and totally enchanted in that entire process. What is it psychologically that really brings that about?
Ram is the code of conduct. Ram is the way of life. Ram is invited into ourselves. Ram. We start the day with Ram, and we end our journey with Ram Naam Satya. Ram is part of us everywhere. Similarly, Jagannath, Jai Jagannath. We believe that He is the Lord of the universe, and everything runs because He is running it. So that is the belief. So when things happen related to religion or Ram, like they said, Ramayana, there are so many Ramayans. Even in the Southeast countries, Ramayana is there. So it is not one thing, but it also has a lot of reasons why, because social media also plays a vital role to mobilize a movement. Why it attracts it, there were movies coming out on Ram, Hanuman, there were ads which were revolving around Ram, everything, from the advertisement to banners to a lot of things, and it was it was like waiting for this result for last 500 years. And when you come out with shining colors, that euphoria is there. And so that movement, everyone got associated with it. People were hugging, crying, taking out rallies. Every day it was being related. So anything, that leads to part of something you need united, you want to come together. So that is how it mobilizes things and people feel unified, whether it is Ram or whether it is Jagannath. So when people get unified, there's a sense of belongingness. As psychologists also, other psychologists also say that there is a loneliness that has creeped into our society, into our lives. So once we become part of something, we feel that we feel, and you get to celebrate. There were so many ways of celebrating. There were people who were taking off rallies, there were people who were taking the longest distance or the biggest run. It is their way of unifying under one thing that, okay, this is how Mexico got its first temple, Ram temple. Why? Because that unity, that belongingness is coming when there is one thing. And it can happen to other things also when it is unified. But with this, it was particular because it is something that is a part of life, not just one aspect.
The moment we got on the treadmill, I've been asked to get off it. So the moment we started warming up, I've been told that the ticker is on and we need to wrap up. So one last quick question to all of you, and probably we can start with Lipiji and then go on to Hindol and you. What is the spiritual significance that you see, or the unifying aspect has been spoken about, the fact that Ramayana has its own retelling across the world that has been spoken about. There's the politics of it that you've touched upon. Jagannath ji's, the scriptures, what they tell, and what is it that it really means for us as a nation from a spiritual perspective? And especially, Hindol, I would like to start. Probably, right after Lipiji, I would like you to comment from, also because you've done Srila Prabhupada's biography, where Sri Krishna and Lord Jagannath is the form of Sri Krishna. So, what is it that spiritually? What do you think is how does it affect us, bring us together as a nation?
You want me to answer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to tell you this, that there was a time when when the drum came onto the scene, when we had Buddhism flourish. Sorry, we had this period in the Indian history when Buddhism was flourishing like anything under the aegis of the Emperor Ashoka. And the rituals of the Hindu religion, they were looked upon. And so this is the time when the Ramayana and Mahabharata come into light. This was brought into light so that it could unify the country, which was under the influence of Buddhism.
So every few eras, there's this churning that happens where
Basically, a religion is a way to tie a country together, to tie a people together. And then we have the Islamic invasion, when the Muslims were ruling India. And it was the time of Emperor Akbar's rule. And we have Tulsidas coming up with the Ramayana. And basically, from that moment, we see there is a tussle between Hinduism and Islam. But we see Hinduism actually prevailing because of Tulsidas. Because it becomes so popular and people are inspired, by Lord Ram.
So what you're saying is it's primarily the spiritual aspect in people that's ingrained in people that continues to unite them every time there is an attack or some opposition that happens.
Under the influence of the Mughals, under Muslim rule, when Islam was prevailing and Buddhism was wiped out. So how did Hinduism prevail? It is through Tulsidas Ramcharitmanas that
It prevailed.
unified Bharat, that unified India and made everyone aware of Lord Ram, and that
for Hindus.
So, Hindol, there, a quick word on how do you think, is it very symbolic? And is there a need for it being symbolic for us to spiritually bind together to bring the nation together again?
No, I think this has been historically, I mean, there is no doubt about this. Countless people have commented about this, that India is really built on the footsteps, as it were, the footprints of pilgrims. The very geography of India is defined as footprints and pilgrimages that pilgrims undertook, and from north to south, east to west. And there's a reason why Adi Shankaracharya sets out to walk the length and breadth of the country. Hundreds of years later, there's a reason why Swami Vivekananda, when he begins his journey, says, "I will walk the length and breadth of the country." And actually, Gandhiji does the same thing, in a slightly different way, but very similar ideas. That I will understand this country through walking, from pilgrimage to pilgrimage and so on and so forth. Right? That's very important. I was, after many years, I had gone as a child, but after many years, last year I was able to go to see Lord Jagannath during the Rath Yatra in Puri, and it was absolutely blissful. Look, I mean, I think, I was telling somebody when I was coming from the airport that Orissa, the land of Lord Jagannath, is really a hidden gem in our spiritual journey of this nation. This young boy who was with me and who was in college immediately said, perhaps it should remain a hidden gem because otherwise it will become like Goa and Shimla and so on and so forth. Be that as it may, I think this is a very important point, that India's revival, we say India will become 5 trillion, 10 trillion, all kinds of things, right? This can only happen, and nobody had ever had, from Aurobindo to Vivekananda, nobody had any doubt about this, can only happen when a spiritual renaissance takes place. That spiritual renaissance has to begin with our temple. I mean, where will spiritual renaissance begin if not with our temples, if not with the gurus, right? So that, unless that is revived, unless that is cleaned up, unless that is projected, India's growth, India can never have only material growth. Anybody who believes that India can only have material growth is making a mistake. This cannot happen. India's growth has to be led spiritually. The material aspect of it will come alongside. That's very important. Thank you.
Faith in social fabric. How important is faith? A quick word on it to wrap it up.
I'm very honest with you where the goal is. When Ram Bhatt came in 2019, this analyst told me after Ram can be backward only now. And I told him that India is a temple town economy. India has more than 200 towns in our temple town economy. From 2,000 crore rupees economy. In fact, Ram Mandir was the rest of this economy. And Abhishek Ram Prasad was with Lakshmi Kapa of those stories. In a way, I spent 5 days in India. As a land person, God would, right? And from last every property is coming there, from Kalabar to the school, everything is getting sold there, from every tree is coming there. So, Sri Ram Prasad is
And one quick word on the positivity, the positive aspect of this.
When you follow religion or you get together, that gives you positivity, that gives you a resilience, that gives you that hope. There is a shloka where they say in Gita, Ishwar Arpan Buddhi, where he wants to say that जो मैंने किया वो भगवान को समर्पित और जो मुझे मिला वो प्रसाद के रूप में मैं लेता हूँ. तो when you have that, कि जो हो रहा है अच्छे के लिए हो रहा है, तो उस प्रभु कृपा में that hope builds, that negativity does not come, and you are willing to accept, whatever is happening. So that makes you move on in life.
So that's a wonderful note to end the discussion with, quoting from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I do hope and pray that our nation comes together, spiritually engages and charges the entire country for it to become the third largest economy in the world. Thank you very much for giving us a patient hearing. And thank you. Thank you once again to the organizers, Rashmi ji. And I'm back to Delhi today, so I thought I'll take a minute to thank Rashmi ji and the entire team of these young children who've been running around and helping us out find our hotels and taxis and everything. Thank you, Som. Thank you, Mrs. Parada. I think it's been a wonderful experience. This is my second year, and I look forward to being back here again. Thank you. Thanks, Deepika.
That's so kind of you, Lipika. So now for our next session, which is about Odisha on the global stage artistic journeys. Let us invite up on the stage acclaimed writer and filmmaker Biyot Projna Tripathi ji, who will be our moderator for the session. So let's welcome him with a thunder of applause. Shri Biyot Projna Tripathi ji. Okay, I'm so sorry. Srimati. And then Neela Madhav Panda ji, a prolific Indian film producer and director, needs no introduction. Next, we have the Grand Master of Sand Art, Sudarshan Patnaik ji. Let's welcome him on the stage. And then Sandeep Sahu, a Bhubaneswar-based senior journalist. Finally, we have with us Subhashis Misra, a global talent leader. So let's welcome our panelists on the stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today, this is a very beautiful and lovely session with 4 eminent people I have. And the session's name is Odisha on the Global Stage Artistic Journey. Let me first tell a little bit about Odisha in the sense, Odiyas were big traders. We had maritime trade. We had Kalinga when we had with that Ashoka Kalinga war. And Odiyas were very, very dynamic people. And after that, sometime with invasion and all that, people were talking now, so things become a little slower. And the new Odia Renaissance started with the first graduate of Odisha. He is Madhusudan Das. It is in 1970s. So, and he is the first person, and he is the person who is instrumental for the today's Odisha, the province Odisha we are sitting. He is the person who has dreamt about Swatantra Odia Pradesh. For that, 1936 we got our own Pradesh on Bhasa. Bhasa re ame Pradesh ta paile. So, and from that day, and he's the first person who had taken Odisha to the globe. He is in 1897, I think. He had gone to England, London, and taken Odia filigree works with him and showcased, look, we are beautiful artists. And from that day, Odia Renaissance started, and after that, your Fakeer Mohan Senapati with literature, and there are many more people came. And today, at this point of time, Odisha has made a mark in the globe because of many things. Because first, our hockey, and second, you see, UN has mentioned us as a disaster management. We should look forward to Odisha because how capably we do that. These are two things globally we are we made a mark. And now at this point of time, Odiyas are everywhere in the globe, be it in Latin America, England, Asia, South Asia, Middle East, and inside the country also, Odiyas are doing well. We have our Madam President. She is from Odisha, and we have many people. The Reserve Governor, many people, you name in every field. So now Odisha is rising, and I have 4 eminent people. They also had made it to the globe, and I have with me Ms. Padma Sri Sudarshan Patnaik, who is Grand Master of Sand Art, has won more than 27 championships, has taken India, Odisha to the globe, and famous for his Black Taj Mahal. We have Sandeep Sahu, who is a very 37 year of experience of journalism and written a book about Madam President, and the book name is Madam President. And we have Niyamadha Panna Padma Shri, our great filmmaker, who has taken movies, Odia cinema to the globe. And now we have a Subhasis Mishra. He is a very rising star. He is in Amazon and he is doing, building companies, empowering people, taking people in and building business. So now straight I'll ask questions because they have been told we have less time. So, and let me ask, the topic is their artistic journey. Odisha is a place where it is all art, it is hand. Be it Pattachitra, be it cooking, be it filigree, be it sand art. Ame hatare bahut kama karu. Amo hatare ame bahut mahir. Be it weaving, ame bahut mahir. Mo Sudarshan babu ko pacharibi je tankar jo journey se purira samudra kularu पृथ्वीर विभिन्न समुद्र कूल को से ता विषय टिके हमको कहिबे जे कौन से प्रथमे गोटे किछि इंसिडेंट कौन फील करचंती व्हाट इज हिज एक्सपीरियंस आउ से तंग निजर अनुभूति कहिबा अनुभूति कहिबे तंकर ओडिया तोटा को से सेठी केमती देखै चंती
जय जगन्नाथ नमस्कार एटा उपस्थित समस्त बंधुगण But in market, everything our class is very cheap. जो market हमारा जो market है और जो market सब लोग handwork हो, private art हो, ये market पूरा only today we go basic market. तरकारी मते से भी पार्ट वेदिका जगती मालूम करना तो बेसिस तो पूरी बराबर वाली तो से वाली माटी से जाऊँगी के वो से वाली को देखी मुझे थोड़े बहुत चाहिए समझ आया कि वो किस स्ट्रगल करते हो और एक तरह से जो चीज़ कर दिया है जो है कि हमारे प्रत्येक की आगे से मुझे आपकी लाइफ में किस तरह की चीज़ कर दिया है एवं से उद्देश्य मोटे एवरी सब्जेक्ट को चॉइस करने के लिए जो सब्जेक्ट की समस्या है समझते भावुकते जे এটা जस्ट पार्टी प्रॉब्लम में हुई को वर्षा में हुई को समुद्र से हुई को बट से जो व्यक्तिगत दिने मतलब के थोड़ा लाइफ दे दी ताकि जो भी से व्यक्तिगत से आर्ट को वो पूरी लंदन पे एक पहुंची जो कि वो पहले बहुत बड़ा प्लान है कि आप लोग का ऐसे थोड़े एजुकेशन का नाम तो उसका कॉलेज का पढ़ती आप प्रोफेशनली भी सीखी कि वो मानव के दृढ़ विचार दिला से इच्छा करके क्रिएट की जो भी भारत जितनी कभी तो ये मार्केट लोग को मैंने तैयारी कर आर्टिस्ट मैंने कर जहाँ पर समाज को जो बेसिक्स जो हमें जिकोसी क्षेत्र के जो विशाल चीज जो डेवलप कर सकती है चीज कर सकती है इसका बहुत बड़ा बेसिक्स है तो सेटिंग में हम सब लोग एक का तो पूरी भी ये कि प्लानट पे पहुंच जाता है एवं वो बाकी एजुकेशन नौकरी भी बट वो आर्ट का मौके अपना लेकर तो सेटिंग भाव में हमारा जो सिस्टम है तो थोड़ा हमारा कैरियर जो भी समाज को कहीं सेकेंड ही ये चीज जे एजुकेशन नौकरी का पाके जो क्रिएटिविटी रही जो बेसिक्स रही से सीधे पुराना मतलब के करता ओडिशा परिचय क्रिएटिविटी आज तो हमें विभिन्न क्षेत्र में ओडिशा को बट ये जर्नी का पूरी बराबर में मतलब वास्तव में आज जो भी पहुंची वो गोटे देश सपोर्ट पहुंची पूरी बराबर में वाली मौका मालूम प्रसाद এবং বেসিস এবং সেই ଯୋଗୁ जो आर्टिस्ट माने एठी जहा क्रिएटिविटी करथिले सेमानकर ई माटीरे जो पाद करछि सेमाने मो ପାଇଁ भगवान ଏବଂ ସେମାନଙ୍କର ଆଶୀର୍ବାଦ କରିଥିଲେ।
Thank you. Thank you. सुदर्शन बाबू कहले एटाई तक ए जो ओडिसार फ्लेवर जो एसेंस जो पानी जो बाटी जो बाली एटाई तांको से जहा हेचंती ताहा करिछि केते सुंदर कथा। वर्तमान मु संदीप बाबू को पचारिबी 37 वर्ष तांकर जर्नलिज्म से तीनिटा भाषा रे लेखि पारंती आउ से माने कहिबा त हमें कहूचे सेटा हिंदी ओडिया आ इंग्राजी इंग्राजी ओडियाटा मु बुझी गली सेटा सहज माने तू जाउछु यू आर गोइंग मु जाउछि आई एम गोइंग किंतु हिंदी बहुत मुश्किल तू जाउछु तू पुओ की झियो तुम जा रही है जा रहा है तकर ग्लास रु बोतल पर्यंत समस्तंकर जेंडर अछि आम ओडिया मानकर हिंदी टिके डिफिकल्ट नारे मु कहूछि जे आपनकर एते एक्सीलेंस जे आपण आपण ओडिया रे इंग्लिश रे यू कैन स्पीक इन इंग्लिश यू कैन ओडिया व्हिच एवर बट आई वांट टू आस्क यू कि how about your book first that Madam President just a very have Penguin told you or have you told Penguin and what was the journey what was the journey at both ways what was the journey?
Let me first confess that I didn't think of writing a book on the president. The offer actually came from the publishers.
Okay.
And even 1 year after the book is published, I still am looking for the reasons they might have
Wow.
chosen me rather than someone else.
Lovely.
I could, of course, find a few possible reasons. One of them being as a journalist, senior journalist. They wanted a journalist. They must have thought a journalist will perhaps do a better job than anyone else. Second, I am based in Odisha, know the terrain, know the politics, know the culture of this place. And third, maybe I have a very strong urban connection in the sense I spent my entire adolescent period in that district, about 7 years, starting from age 11 to 18.
In Bhairavanj.
So that might have played a role. But I was completely taken aback because I had never written a book, though I have spent a lot of years with the professor. This will surprise many people that this is my first book, and I didn't go proposing to Penguin or any other publisher. They proposed it to me. That's
Great.
how it came about.
So, because I'll just ask you a simple again question because this book, you see, you have written about a person who has gone from the scratch to 100. You see, we do 50 to 100, 0 to 50, but she has 0 to 100. And what is your little experience you have gone through? One small experience with Madam President, which you will like to tell us.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet her while
Huh.
in the process of
Right.
I couldn't get an audience with the president.
Okay.
Because by the time I started writing, she was already president.
Okay.
And there are presidential protocols which don't allow her to give an interview to anyone. Especially if the book is being written about her.
Okay.
So I couldn't get an audience. But I met a lot of people who actually knew her from very close quarters, starting from her childhood
Friends.
to here when she was in politics. And I went to Ranchi where she was
Governor.
for 6 years.
Hmm.
Spent a lot of time there speaking to people from all walks of life, starting from the Rikshavana to the ministers and other top officials. And then part of the research was in the assembly, our interventions in the assembly.
Okay.
As you know, she was in the assembly for about 10 years. The first 5 years as the minister, and then the next 5 years simply as an MLA.
Okay.
And her interventions in the assembly are talked about even now.
Okay.
She came so well prepared to the assembly.
Okay.
And her questions were always pointed, her interventions were always backed up with a lot of facts. And so I had to go through a lot of documents in the assembly to find out her interventions in the assembly.
that's how I got childhood friends to talk to me. They opened up, they gave me anecdotes and
Insight.
from our early life. Then I met people from the political life. So that's how I gathered all the material that have gone into
To the book.
But unfortunately, I didn't get an audience with it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now let me come to our dynamic filmmaker Nidamadha Panda, and actually he is known for his first came to the A for I Am Kalam, and his Kadivi Hawa, where he has that Rangabati Gita in his film, that typical Odiyaness inside the film. And his one film, I want to ask, Kalira Tita. And I will really appreciate, I mean, it is being a filmmaker and being an ordinary person also, I appreciate, and I really, it's very brave to send that film to Oscar. And that is not easy, because Sejo Jinsata Kote Bohu, that smartness, that cutting edge, you get it, don't get it, that hardly matters, but you dare to compete. That's the beauty. And I will ask him, what is his journey, and he'll be say a little about all these things, how he decided and what happened.
Namaskar. Thank you. I think last few days, I must say that when the topic is globalizing Odia, its creativity, and we're sitting with the right people here. I'll give you an incident with what happened with Suvasis also. How incidentally we met in LA. Okay, that was my first film. I Am Kalam. I took it to Los Angeles, and something happened. I went to Disney studio, and then I met Suvasis when he was working in Disney. I met his boss in the film festival who introduced us. So imagine way back 2011-12. There are two Odias. He's my neighbor's towns. He's from Titlagad. I'm from Sonpur, and we meeting in Los Angeles. So that's where Odias are. So coming to Kalira Atita, of course, it was a film which was sent to Oscar. So you can apply for that, and then you can push, you can lobby to show the film to Oscar jury. And that's what I did. The idea was to push and talk your Odia film at a global platform. Of course, my films have traveled to many festivals. That is the only Odia film I've directed. My push was how you make the film reach to different parts of the world. So globalizing is something very critical about Indian creativity, okay? As compared to many other countries. Look at this tiny country like South Korea, okay? Their films, their music is extremely popular now, all over the world, K-pop, their shows, their films, now, we as one of the largest cinema producing country also, we are so self-consumed. We have a market here, we depend on our own economy, own festivals, own awards. So we never push our film to that far. Look at the film like Monsoon Wedding, which is as good as any Hollywood film, okay? So where you stand at that place, today when I'm sitting here in Odisha, in last 3 days, I would say I would consider it to be one of my most celebrated time I've ever spent in Odisha, okay? Last 3-4 days. This whole Biso Odia Mahotsav was like outstanding. The language festival is outstanding. I think we must appreciate each other for that. All of us, it's not only government. I think that's where you get inspired to do more and take yourself to another level. This is what I have been saying, how we push each other, appreciate each other, collaborate and take it forward. Unfortunately, sometimes you get criticized for doing good also. When I did the Kalira Atita to Oscar, I was criticized by many people, which should not happen for anybody, I must say. Coming to globalizing, just imagine a film like, say, or Lunchbox or I Am Kalam. Okay, I Am Kalam was a tiny film. Way back in 2010-11, I did Selling the House. Okay, that film is one of the biggest ever reached out film, Indian film globally. Okay, we made 1.2 crore film made 30 crores. Number is not important. It was released in China, Poland, Luxembourg, Africa, everywhere. Even Kaun Kitne Pani Mein did not work in India. Okay. So the idea, why I'm talking is not only cinema, how you tell the story, create a painting, write a poem and make it global. So one of the finest example is Sudarshan Babu, okay? It's a local art. He makes his art sitting in Puri Sea Beach. And today, he's a global star for his creation. So I think these are Bibu Mahapatra, for example. I mean, where he has taken fashion, Odia art into fashion he is doing, There are a lot of such people. I'll give you an example. I don't know any of you know or not. There's a very beautiful news for all of us. I reached out to her. I didn't know she's Odia. There's this young girl called Priti Panigrahi. Okay, if anyone knows, nobody would know here. Okay, yeah. This young girl who's acted in Richa's film and got one of the very prestigious acting award in Sundance last week. Okay. I called her, I said, you should come and speak yourself here. You can inspire many youngsters, I mean, our cinema industry, that it's still growing, we are not in a very good stage, but these things will help a lot. Subhasis, imagine 15 years back, went to LA and working in Disney. I think these small thing matters a lot, and this is a time for us to fly now, because we have enough talked about poverty, 2 rupees rice kilo for 21 years, Dana Maji, all is washed out now. I think we have forgotten, I should not remind it, but this is a platform I should say, this is time to celebrate, this is time to fly. And most important is, this is a state which is full of creativity, art and culture, and we should take it to another level. And each of us are responsible for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nirabada. So he says, we have to push each other. We have to take ourselves to the globe, to the platform. So in that note, let me ask Subhasis Mishra that his journey, he met him in LA and working in Disney studio. Now he is with Amazon. How? You were trained and studied in Odisha? Yeah. He's an engineer, he's a management trainee, and his education is from here. And he will say, what is that cutting edge that took you there? Because for the audience, for the youngsters, for the people that they want to know, what is that?
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me. I don't know what I'm doing amongst all these stalwarts. I feel I'm in the wrong place, but I really appreciate the opportunity. And thank you for the invite. And so inspiring to hear all of your stories, which I'm going to talk to my colleagues and friends and my family. Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Orissa, in Titlagarh. So, first through 10th class porjanta Odia medium re padithili. But anybody who has gone to Odia medium school, like they all you want to learn English because you want to talk like others, right? So, Odia medium re padithili, I wanted to secretly learn English and be able to speak in English. And that's been my lifelong mission to try and be a part of the whole world's citizenship, even though I did not study or I did not anything. Nila, you'll appreciate that. So that is Seta Moku Mote. It's been fueling me for my whole life. How do I be the best in spite of where I come from? And that's been my mission, because you don't become the best just because you are from a state. You become the best because you work hard at it and you prove yourself among the best. And then if you are from a state that, is not among the best and you want to showcase that, like Nilo said, anyone from any state, anywhere can become the best. And that's been my mission. I think Odisha re amara gote bahut bada strength achi, which is our values. We are all raised with very strong values. My mother raised me with a lot of strong values of empathy, of kindness and compassion. Odisha ru Bombay ru Los Angeles gali. I was heading HR for Disney Studios. I did not use my management studies, honestly. what I used is what my mother, mo ma jota mata sikaitila, seta mo use kali. That you have to treat people respectfully, you have to treat people compassionately, and you have to be kind to people. And trust me, mother's lessons is the best management lessons that you can ever study. And that's what I used. And I still use that. And believe it or not, they're very relevant and they're powerful and that they beat any management school's business education.
Thank you, thank you. That's so lovely, because what is your fundamentally your hardware is that we are inbuilt in us that compassion, humility, the respect, and that is what pays. That is the secret of Odiyas. And now at that note, I'll ask Mr. Sahu, what will you tell the other generation, the new people? You are the first time author, you are a successful journalist, to how to be there, because you have done journalism in the state, regional journalism, and regional journalism is not an easy thing. It has many layers and many ups and downs and many things. And how to be here. You see, there are one thing, you be here and be global, be a good Odia and be a good Indian, and then be a good world citizen. And you go to some place, be also a good family person, good Odia, and be a citizen. Being here, wow, what will you say for the new generation, that what should they do? What is the mantra of yours?
My mantra, I will tell you, it will not be everyone's mantra. But now with internet, I think it is possible for good work being done here to notice the world. Earlier, when I started my career, it was not so easy. Even getting noticed in Delhi was a big deal. But now, even someone based in Kenya or Bhavani Patna, if he does a good story, how did the world come to know Dhanapati Bhajan? We may have our views whether it's a good story or bad story. But the very fact that the Dhanapati story went all the way around the world, BBC commissioned a story on that for me. And that brought me queries from several people based abroad. Some people wanted to help out those girls, the three daughters. So internet has now made it possible for someone based in Odisha and someone who has never gone out of the state to be noticed. It is doing its work well and diligently and honestly. So it's not a problem being noticed or getting the attention of the world. Anybody can, if he is doing good work, if he is doing it honestly to the best of his ability, it is now possible to be noticed from all over the world.
Thank you. Honesty and sincerity matters. That is the key word. So, ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ସୁଦର୍ଶନ ବାବୁଙ୍କୁ ପଚାରିବି ଯେ ଆପଣ କ'ଣ କହିବେ? ନୂଆ ତ ସବୁ ଯେମିତି ଆର୍ଟିଷ୍ଟ ଆପଣ ଆଜିକାଲି ପିଲାମାନେ ଆପଣଙ୍କ ୟୁଟ୍ୟୁବ ଦେଖିକି ଆପଣ ଯାହା ବନଉଛନ୍ତି ସେଟା ବନେଇଛନ୍ତି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଯୋଉ ନୂଆ କ୍ରିଏଟିଭିଟି ପାଇଁ କ'ଣ କହିବେ? ଯେ being yourself, ନୂଆ, how to be really creative, not copying, how to be, କେମିତି?
ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଯେମିତି ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ସମୟ ଥିଲା ଆମେ ସମସ୍ତେ ଭାବୁଥିଲୁ କି ଇନଷ୍ଟଲେସନ ଆର୍ଟ ଫର୍ମ କୌଣସି କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ରେଲେଭେଣ୍ଟ ହେଇଯିବ, ମାନେ ଯେହେତୁ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିଛି ସାଙ୍ଗାର୍ଟ କୁ କହୁଥିଲେ ସମସ୍ତେ ଯେ ଏଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ଜଷ୍ଟ ଇନଷ୍ଟଲେସନ ଆର୍ଟ ଫର୍ମ, ତ ୟାର କୌଣସି ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ ନାହିଁ। ତ ଆଜିକା ସମୟରେ ଦେଖୁଛି ଗ୍ଲୋବାଲି ଅଲ୍ ମ୍ୟାକ୍ସିମମ୍ ଆର୍ଟ ଫର୍ମ ଇନଷ୍ଟଲେସନ ଆର୍ଟ ଫର୍ମ ଦେଖୁଛି। ଇଭେନ୍ ଲାଷ୍ଟ ଟାଇମ୍ ଗୋଟେ ୟୁଏସରେ ଗୋଟେ ଲଙ୍ଗ टूर जाते वो विभिन्न आर्ट गैलरीज को गली सब इंस्टीट्यूशन आर्ट तो हमारे जो पिलाମାନେ କାମ କରୁଛନ୍ତି डिफरेंट आर्ट फॉर्म देखो तो ଗୋଟେ କଥା ହଉଛି ଯେ ସେମାନେ ତାଙ୍କର ନିଜର ବହୁତ କ୍ରିଏଟିଭିଟି ୟୁଜ କରିବା ନଥିଂ ଲାଇକ୍ ଯେ କପି ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ହେଇକି ଆମକୁ ଜଷ୍ଟ ଖାଲି ଡ୍ର କରିବା। ଏଇ ଯୋଉ କ୍ରିଏଟିଭିଟି ଟା ଯେ ରହିବ ମୋର ଉଦାହରଣ ଦଉଛି, ମୁଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଫର୍ଷ୍ଟ ଟାଇମ୍ ଫରେନ୍ इंटरनेशनल कॉम्पिटिशंस में पार्टिसिपेट करी तो ମୋ ପାଇଁ इंग्लिश में बहुत बड़ा पिला जे सिटी में देखली जे फरेन आर्टिस्ट माने बहुत बड़ा बड़ा स्कल्पचर्स करछथि बहुत old age culture की बहुत senior artist जो हमारे 15 years 30 years science subject पे तो मुझसे मान लीजिए competition पे मतलब नहीं करना so very difficult ना मतलब कोई लंबा समय वेट करेगा तो मैं भाभी जी कौन पहले मुझे भी एक जगह प्राइज हुई करते थे तो मुझे इच्छा था कि अंतर जो लोकल इश्यूज जो हमारे ग्लोबल इश्यूज मुझे इश्यूज बेसिकली इस कल्चर को क्रिएट कर जो है कि मुझे जिस हमारा बहुत बड़ा फिगर कर the beautiful way but then there was such a message which is nice and it is both art so I did Protestant starters both bright culture the more public related art form really deeply buried more world championship chila और उसकी वो जाएगी जो टीम का वो बोला अच्छे लेकिन अगर जो पिया मतलब अच्छे रेजिस्टर कीजिए ये जो वर्ल्ड कॉन्फ्रेंस होती क्लाइमेट चेंज तो बेसिकली कौन उससे मतलब बेसिकली क्लाइमेट चेंज मुझे मोदी हमारा आईएस क्लियर है जो कि बहुत पॉपुलर है तो हम सीधी टॉपिक टुडे इस सब्जेक्ट है कभी से आईएस क्लियर करके और ग्लोबल करके से वो मैसेज तो दिस सेम माइंड है तो थोड़े करके दीजिए कॉन्टेक्ट को इंटर ग्लोब में क्लाइमेट चेंज की इम्पैक्ट तो फर्स्ट वीडियो ही इतनी जो है मीडिया थोड़ा सा स्ट्रक्चर तो सेवानी एसोसिएटेड में जो ग्रुप को भी ऐसे करके वीडियो विजिटर्स में फर्स्ट चैनल के से ग्रुप को भेज कारण जितना लोकल सब्जेक्ट है तो लोकल सब्जेक्ट को उनको अबाउट क्लाइमेट चेंज तो तापर मन अनबिलीवेबल बहुत बड़ा सब्जेक्ट है ये क्लास चैंपियनशिप है बट मोस्ट कल्चर्स वेयर पब्लिक क्या आप पूरी चैलेंज कैटेगरी सिलेक्शन हुए हैं वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप में स्कल्पचर्स माने वोटिंग द बेस्ट स्कल्पचर जो मैं पार्टिसिपेट होते जूरी माने तक मार्किंग करे तो पब्लिक भी वोटिंग करे तो इन सब तरह माने वो स्कल्पचर का टॉप क्लास है जहां पर वो वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप मिलेगा पूरी पूरी चीज पब्लिक जहां चाहूँ हम उससे डेवलप करेंगे तो हमारा जो यंग जनरेशन जो माने जो फील्ड काम करते हैं आर्ट कल्चर राइटिंग जो जहां साधारण लोग चाहते से ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କର ଚିନ୍ତାଧାରା ଚିନ୍ତା କରିକି ଆମେ ଯଦି କରିବା ତାହେଲେ ଆମେ ଆହୁରି ଆଗକୁ ଯାଇପାରିବା ତେଣୁକରି ଆର୍ଟ ଫର୍ମ ଇଏ ଗୋଟେ ବହୁତ ବଡ଼ ଫର୍ମ ତ ଆର୍ଟ ଫର୍ମ ଏମିତି ଗୋଟେ ଫର୍ମ ଗ୍ଲୋବାଲି ମୁଁ ଜାଣିବାରେ ଆପଣ ରାଇଟିଂ ହଉ କି ଯେମିତି ଗ୍ଲୋବାଲ କଣ୍ଟାକ୍ଟ କରିବେ ମୁଁ ଆଜି କହୁଥିଲି କି ମୁଁ ମହୋତ୍ସବ ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥାରେ କାମ କରୁଥିଲି ଯେ ଫର୍ଷ୍ଟ ୱେବ୍ ସେଟଲମେଣ୍ଟ କରିଥିଲି ଆମ ଓଡ଼ିଶା କରିଥିଲି से 1936 से बिल्डिंग करे केते डिफिकल्ट से बिल्डिंग से कलेक्शन की और बड़ी पत्र में लिखा है कि कोटा आगे के पत्र में तो अपन सीसी बाबू को अभी लेवल सीरीज को लेवल क्रिएशन के और ओडिशा रो विभिन्न समय ओडिशा रो विभिन्न निर्माण करने चेष्टा करछि ओडिशा रो बिल्डिंग को और आगे बढ़ाओ तो हमें 1936 टू आज 2024 ये जो डिफरेंस इधर हमें कितने चेंज हम स्पीड में हमें कितने आगे को जाए से हमारे लोग मानी करछन ये ओडिशा लोग मानी करछन तेणुकरी हमें सेवान को चिंताधारा में परिवर्तन नहीं जिसमें जो लुप्त देखे चलते सेति में लोगों के आग्रह बढ़ছে এবং আমরা ওড়িশার লোক মানে আজ এতটুকু পৌঁছ পাচ্ছি যদি সার্জিও ম্যাডাম উপরে কই লিখছেন যে ম্যাডাম দেখায় बट से चिंता करते हैं मुझे ये मैडम को मदद करके इतनी गैलरी करके एक स्टोरी सोचा कि मुझे बुक्स से देखिए करके पढ़ी इस विषय को कहले जे विश्व भाव तो भगवान का आशीर्वाद पर हमको समस्त से चेष्टा करके पड़ियो हम नीचे जो हुए न्यूट्रल को बनाने
Thank you. Art with a purpose. Sudarshan Babu art kale with a purpose, climate change, and that on the heart of people. So everything should have a purpose. In that note, I am asking Nilamadra Panda that what will he say? What is how we will take the films, the people, the intellect, Odia intellect, and what you will say, how to take it much to a higher plane.
Well, I think, AI, internet is more useful for us more than Sudarshan Babu. But this is, in fact, this is a huge platform today. Like Sandeep Babu also said, that today when you make something, a tiny film, if I make in my village, Dasrajpur, and if I have a right intent and if the storytelling is correct, that everyone will understand, somebody sitting in Nigeria or somebody sitting in Canada, I think the platform is huge today. It's we should know how we utilize that. And I remember there was this young rapper in Kalahandi. So lately, I mean, later he used some abusive language or something people didn't like, but it's about 3 years back. One small rap he did, and everywhere in those music directors from Bombay started contacting him. So I think this is a great time for young talents, whatever they're doing, if they're doing Odissi dance or cinema or painting, anything can reach out, global scale today. I think we don't need to teach them. They are much more smarter than us. So, and we are doing age-old work, what we say, films and the TV shows, but these young kids are much, much, much better. There are kids who have 1 million, 2 million followers now on Instagram. You don't need to teach them. They're too smart, I guess.
Thank you. So now the medium is the social media, the internet is the medium, and the basic thing is how to use it. Use it well. That is the whole thing. And now to Subhasis Mishra, will you tell something for our younger generation, how to grow and take yourself to the global stage?
Yes, that's a great question. I think I agree with everything. There's a common thread in everything that all the panelists said, which is push the boundary, innovate, be authentic, and see what people need, right? And I think that's what I've been trying to tell all the people that we recruit at Amazon or Disney. We are always looking for people who are willing to speak the truth. They're not saying something because they're supposed to say that. They have to speak their mind courageously. So whether it's his art, his movies, or his journalism, there's one thing that's common, which is they are speaking the truth as they are seeing it. And that is very unique. I think a lot of us become so swept by what is the trend, what is the flavor, what is the mass saying, and we become a part of that. I think what stands out is what is your view. Everyone is interested in what you think. I don't want to know what everybody else thinks. And each of our honorable panelists here are speaking something, saying something, sharing their art, which is very unique. And I think that's the only thing I would leave with any one of us who is trying to be memorable, trying to leave an impact, is you have a very unique voice. And we mostly do not pay attention. Even if we pay attention, we are afraid of sharing that. And I think the innovation lies when you are getting out of your comfort zone. And when you are getting out of the fear. The other side of fear is innovation. So if you're fearing something, don't quash it, because you may be onto something. I mean, I'm sure when you're making a film, you're feeling really shit scared. Like, should I tell the story or not? This is going to ruffle a lot of feathers. Or if you're painting an art, you're wondering, what is the world going to say? Tomorrow I'm going to get really bad rap, or you're telling a story. But you do that in spite of that fear, because on the other side of fear is truth. So that's what I would say, that, you have to speak the truth and you have to get over your fear.
Beautiful. Actually, the whole thing is the other side of the fear is the truth. So don't fear. Don't be fake. Be yourself and work hard. That is the punchline and takeaway today to all of you. Thank you. Thank you for being such a beautiful, lovely audience. Thank you. And a big applaud for our panelists, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was indeed a very stimulating conversation. And now, for our next panel discussion, the topic would be weaving the tapestry of literature, handloom, and culture making of an audition dream. So let's call upon the stage our panelists, Arabinda Padhi ji, Bhabani Mohanty ji, and Itishri Nayak ji, who will be our moderator for this session. Itishri Nayak ji, Bhavani Mohanty, and Mr. Padhi. I request everyone to please settle down and welcome our esteemed guests with an applause. Wait for a minute.
Can we settle down? Yeah. Thank you.
आपण समस्तଙ୍କୁ नमस्कार बहुत सुंदर गोटे सेशन देखिले आउ एबे जेमती आपण माने सुनी थिबे ता परटा कोठी ना कोठी ता सहित जोड़ी हेकी रही छि ता उपरु कामे जेबा एवं मो सहित दुई जण एमिति अतिथि अछंती बोधवे मो भाबुची परिचयर आवश्यकता नाही डॉक्टर अरविंद कुमार पाढ़ी भल भाबरे आपण जानि थिबे प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ ओडिशा एवं सार को विषय कौन कहबी सार ना शुणिले हुए तो आपन आखि आगक आसी जाउथबो हमर कला संस्कृतिर गोटे जीवंत गोटे मॉडल जदि भूल नता कारण माने जदि हमर टेक्सटाइल रो गोटे एते सुंदर ब्रांड एम्बेसडर बोधवे आउटी देखिथिबे सर आज भी आछन पिंदी की डंगरिया कंद जैकेट थैंक यू सो मच एवं मु तो कथा निश्चित भाव हेबी मो सहित भवानी महांती अच्छी इज अ ग्लोबल लीडर मु ओडिया रे आज बहुत कथा हेबी कहीं आम जो ओडिशार कथा होचे कला संस्कृतिर कथा होचे मु बहुत चेष्टा करी मु आ मोर दुई पैनलिस्ट अतिथि निश्चित भाव ओडिया रे कथा हंतु भवानी निश्चित भाव आम कहीपर ग्लोबल लीडर मु यार ओडिया सठिक भाव करि पारुनी क्षमा चाहिए से बेसी तांकर जो रही कही हम जे से आमे ताकू अंतर्जातीय स्तर कथा मु पचारि टिके भवानी को सर जेमती मु कहली डॉक्टर पाढ़ी आमे उत्कल एथि पई हमर गोटे समय रे हम राज्यर ना थिला कला उत्कर्षर देश एठी सब किछि जणा पड़ी जाए जे आमे उत्कल रु कलिंग हेले कलिंग रु ओडिसा हेले किंतु से छापटा जोटी भाषा हमर एते रुद्धिमंत एते समृद्ध आमर शास्त्रीय भाषार भी मान्यता पाई कला संस्कृति आउ कला कथा तो मुझे कौन कह आपण मैंने देखुवे संस्कृतिर आधार जो स्वयं श्री जगन्नाथ आम चाली चलनी सबुठी जो कला संस्कृति सबकि छाप छाड़ी जाए सामना वाला देखी पारती से जगह आउ कौन मु अधिक परिचय देवी सीधा सब प्रश्न को आसीजी सर मुझे लास्ट आड़ ही आरंभ करने को चाहूँगी आम जिते आमर कला संस्कृति ऐतिह्य आमर बयनशिल्प कथा कहूचे आमर सबुथिरे खाइबा पीबा ठू नहीं आमर कथा कहबार चालीचलन जीवन शैली सबुथिरे कोटना कोटी गोटे छाप छाड़ी गोटे नियारापण अच्छी एवं जिते आम केवल ओडिशार वर्तमान स्थिति को देखा 1936 कथा टी आगर कह जाऊला 2023 रे आम बहुत अधिक बाट आगे आसी अंतर्जातीय स्तर में आम विषय बहुत जन जानिले किंतु आमे सेठी की संतुष्ट की केते संतुष्ट आ कोन रही छी एबे जेंति कहले आमे पूरा ग्लोबलाइज आमे पूरा बजारीकरण भी आसी जाइए उदारीकरण भी आसी जाइए आमे समस्त पाखे खूब सहज रे पहुंची पारुचे तथापि आमे जो जगह पहुंची आमर कला संस्कृति को लेकिन ओडिशार स्वप्न कौन से सीमित रही
बहुत धन्यवाद ଆପଣ ମତେ ପରିଚୟ ଦେବା ପାଇଁ ମୋର ଯୋଉ ଲଙ୍ଗିଆ କନ୍ଦର ସବୁ ପ୍ରସ୍ତୁତ ଜ୍ୟାକେଟ ବି ଦେଖିଲେ ଆଇ ଏମ୍ ଭେରି ହ୍ୟାପି ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ୟୁ ନୋଟିସ୍ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ତୁମେ ଜାଣିନାହାନ୍ତି ଜଷ୍ଟ ଲାଷ୍ଟ ମନ୍ଥ only this particular for my friend Mr. Balaji from Bengal I just inform you that this particular hand woven fabric got the GI tagging the geographical identification tagging only last month. So this is the 10th item. आमर 9 प्रकार हस्ततंत्र अछि जाकु GI टैग मिली साथी माडिया नंबर संबलपुरी आवासपुरी कोटपाट आमर कोडा कुंभ फळा पत्थर पर्दा सब पाई साथी तो एते या रेडी कि हम संरक्षण बहुत हम बराबर संबलपुर से संबलपुरी जैकेट पिंदी दैट वाज नॉट द रीजन ऑफ कोर्स दैट कुड बी वन ऑफ द रीजंस मो मोर संस्कृति भी भल पाए एवं या पिंदिला द्वारा दुईटा जिंस मे बी आई हैव डाइग्रेस देखि पिंदिला द्वारा जो जिंस ପାଇଁ पिंदिला जो अंतर्निहित उद्देश्य थाए सेटा हला पिंदिले निश्चित भाव भल लागे दिस इज आल्सो गुड फॉर आवर स्किन बीइंग हैंड वूवन फैब्रिक्स किंतु सबसे बड़ जिंस हला जे आमे यदि कोनसी हस्ततंत्र लुगा को आदर करबा ताले एंड ऑफ द मंथ वी हेल्प एवरीवन हमर कृषि हमको जीविका हिसाब से छाड़ी देले परवर्ती पर्याय हैंडलूम सेक्टर बा हैंडीक्राफ्ट सेक्टर होची लाइवलीहुड्स बा जीविका उत्पादन माध्यम पाए हमर सबसे बड़ सेक्टर हमर आगे एवं आपण जानिछथि जे आपण संस्कृति विषय पचारले हमर संस्कृति होची हमर परिचय जगन्नाथ संस्कृति को नै ओडिया जाति परिचित लाभ होची एंड दैट आल्सो जेति सुदर्शन पटनायक का आपण बालिका कला कथा कहले बिमा सुदर्शन साहू पर आपण हमें जदी स्कल्पटिंग टैलेंट को देखिबा बा फॉर दैट मैटर जहां भी हमर कला अछि संस्कृति अछि ताहाई हमको परिचय ସେଥିପାଇଁ ଆମେ ବିଶ୍ୱ ଦରବାରରେ ଯଦି ଓଡ଼ିଆ ସଂସ୍କୃତିକୁ ପରିଚୟ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଚାହିଁବା ତାହେଲେ ଆମ ସଂସ୍କୃତି ମାଧ୍ୟମ ନେଇକି ଯିବା ଏବେ ଓଡ଼ିଆ ଭାଷା ସମ୍ମିଳନୀ ଦେଖିବା ବିଶ୍ୱ ଓଡ଼ିଆ ଭାଷା ସମ୍ମିଳନୀ ଆପଣ ସେଥିରେ ଦେଖିଛନ୍ତି ହାଉ वी କାଇଣ୍ଡ ଅଫ କନେକ୍ଟେଡ ଟୁ ରେଷ୍ଟ ଅଫ ଦ ୱାର୍ଲଡ ଥ୍ରୁ ଆୱାର ମିଡିୟମ ଅଫ କଲଚର ତେଣୁ ସଂସ୍କୃତି ହେଉଛି ଆମର ପରିଚୟ ଏବଂ ସଂସ୍କୃତି ଦ୍ୱାରା ଆମେ ବିଶ୍ୱ ଦରବାରରେ ଆମର ପରିଚିତିକୁ ଆମେ ବ୍ୟାପକ
बहुत सुंदर एवं यही धारा रे ए मार्ग रे हमें आगे चलीचे बिल्कुल आगे चलीचे एवं विश्व भाषा सम्मेलनी कथा कहले प्रथम विश्व भाषा सम्मेलन ओडिया भाषा सम्मेलनी यदि कहा जाय परिबो बहुत जण बहुत अधिक प्रशंसा मध्य करिसथि जो प्रकार रहितिला ए प्रकार इनिशिएटिव एवं भवानी महंती आपन पाखु भी आसीबी सात कहले आमे गोटे जागा रे वर्तमान अच्छे जीआई टैगिंग ए निकट रे आमे सात जिंस पाइले ता आगु बहुत गुडा का जिंस थिला सर पिंदी चंती कपट गंधा ये डंगरिया कंदंकर स्त्री लोक माने स्पेशली वीव करंती बुनंती दैट इज द स्पेशलिटी किंतु आमे जो जगह अच्छे मु सेठु ही नबा को चाहिबी जेतिकी बाट पहुंची पारिचे सेठु आगु को कोन रास्ता केमिति देखुचंती आमे जातीय स्तर रे खूब ना करिचे आमे जे संबलपुरी फैक्ट हैला गोटे स्त्री लोक हिसाब रे मु तले आजी संबलपुरी गोटे साड़ी टे किनिया को जाउची मते डर लागुची तर दाम देखि कि सतरे खुशी भी लागुची डर भी लागुची केना वे तो बहुत जगह रे मु एफोर्ड करि पारुनी एवं किंतु खुशी लागुची बहुत भी ए जिनिसटा दामटा एते बढ़ी पारिची केना अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर रे यार बिक्रीटा बढ़ी गलानी आमे कोना कोटी एबे रिकॉग्नाइज करूचे आमे चिन्हुचे जो कष्ट बुणीबारे गोटे साड़ी एवं बहुत टिपिकल शैलीटा बहुत डिफरेंट हे गलानी तो केमिति आपण देखुचंती जो ओडिसा को नै कि विश्व दरबार रे गोटे अलग स्थान रे रखिबा पई कला तार ऐतिह्य सब को नै कि परिचिति पाइबा पई आमे को जागा रे वर्तमान अच्छे आगु को केमिति जेबा से जो रोड मैपटा आपण केमिति देखुचंती
आपण जे देखिबे किछि दिन पूर्वरु एक्चुअली गोटे साड़ी आसिला जो शकुंतला देवींकर लेखा हला टॉप मैथमेटिक्स लेखा हला तापर आपण देखिबे कोन हला बहुत गुडे लोक एठी जैकेट पिंदी की बुलचंती ओ आ लेखा आइथिबा राइट बहुत 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 गुडे लोक एक्चुअली नो साड़ी पिंदिबा भी आरंभ करले ओ आ लेखा आइथिबा ता काई की हला आपण जदी ठीक लोक जदी पिंदी की प्रमोट कला अरविंद बाबू को भली लोक जदी प्रमोट कला सेही ड्रेस पिंदी की सेही ये पिंदी की ताहले लोक ताको एक्सेप्ट करिवे ओके से माने स्टाइल आइकन हेले ही लोक एक्सेप्ट करिवे सेकंड जिंस टिके रिबेल होबा को पड़िबो ओके सो मु जो सूट पिंधुची एटा यूरोप रे एक्सेप्टेड यूएस रे एक्सेप्टेड मु काहे की गोटे संबलपुरी सूट पिंधिकी जीविनी माने को जिनसटा मते रोकुची कारण आमे कहूचु ना जे वेस्टर्न वेयर होची तमे बेकटा बंद हेतिबो तमरो हाथ ये देखा जीवा दरकार नहीं तो ठीक अछि ना आमे संबलपुरी रे करबा आमे डोंगरिया कंधर जो बुनुची एक्चुअली से ये रे शूट करबा काई करि परिबानी किंतु काहाकू गोटे सेही स्टेप टा नबाकू पड़िबो जे मु आ एक्चुअली नो पिंधिबिनी से वेस्टर्न लेनन रे मु पिंधिबी एक्चुअली मोर डंगुरिया कंधर तयारी सूट सो सेही दिन सेहीटा जो दिन आपण कर देबे आपणकर जो ए जो टेक्सटाइल रो जो वैल्यू बहुत मात्रा रे बढ़ी जिवो आ आपण सस्टेन करि परिबे
ओके बहुत सुंदर किंतु एथिपाई कि हमको डिजाइनर मानकर हेल्प बहुत दरकार जेमती आपण कहिले आपण गोटे कॉर्पोरेट मीटिंग को जिबे ग्लोबल लीडर्स मानकर आपण ताऊ संबलपुरी रो पिंधि गले वे तो एक्सेप्टेबल हबनी गोटे भारी अलगा लागे सूट करिवनी से कलर आ स्टाइल किंतु से जो टेक्सटाइल ता को हमें डिफरेंट ये दे परिबा डिजाइन ता गोटे डिफरेंट करि परिबा बहुत बहुत सुंदर सर आमे केवल कोन एबे पर्यंत जो जो जिंस गुडा कर आमे ऑलरेडी परिचिति पाई सारी छे सेठी सीमित रहि जिवो आपण निजे कृषि को नै कि बहुत भाबंती आपण पाठ पढा सब कृषि को नै कि ताकु नै कि आपण डिपार्टमेंट भी एग्रीकल्चर अछंती किंतु ताकु नै कि हम पाखरे गोटे एग्जांपल जदी कमला पूजारी कर नेबी हजारे वर्ष एबे एबे हजार वर्ष तलर जो कला धान कोरापुट रो हमर पाइला जीआई टैगिंग हैला सेमती कमला पूजारी ना कहीं केते प्रसिद्ध पद्मश्री जत तांको देले भारत सरकार कहीं की देले केते शह शह वर्षर से देसी ढांचा रे रखी चंदी संरक्षित करके एइटा कोन हमर गोटे कला हमर नियारापन को सूचौनी की गोटे माध्यम रे आमे स्वास्थ्यगत दृष्टिकोण सेटा बहुत भलो एवं द्वितीय रे एते रेयर ब्रीड्स ताकू आउ को वे रे आमे नहीं परिबा माने ओडिसा रो सीमित न रही जाऊ केवल कला भास्कर्य आम भाषा आउ को स्पेस अछि फील्ड अछि एस्पेक्ट्स अछि जोटा को आमे नहीं कि जाय परिबा
आपण कृषि विषय रे कुछ संपर्क रे उल्लेख करथि बहुत खुशी स्वभाव कवि गंगाधर ने कहथिले कृषि कले उन्नत सफल विदाउट डेवलपिंग द एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर नो स्टेट और नो कंट्री विल प्रॉस्पर एंड नॉट a state like Odisha तो बहुत सुंदर भाबरे आपण कृषि को सेक्टर अवधारणा करथि एवं एबे आपण कला जिला कथा कहले those of you who would not be aware Odisha's Jaipur tract is considered as the secondary origin of rice in fact केते जण कोहंती हिस्टोरिकली कोहंती जोटा कि एम्पिरिकली ठीक न जे ओडिसा रो इंग्रजी नामला ओडिसा ओ आर आई एस एस एवं धान का पैडी रो इंग्रजी का लैटिन नाम है ओराई ओ आर वाई जेड is there a connection there may not be any connection but it's a very happy coincidence that Odisha रे हमर धान रो उत्पत्ति हितला एवं कला जिला संपर्क रे आपण कहले हमर एग्रो बायोडायवर्सिटी दिस इज आल्सो पार्ट ऑफ आवर कल्चर कारण हमें ओडिसा रो संस्कृति केवल हमें आख पाख भुवनेश्वर बा कटक अंचल में परिकारिया नै हमर सिजनना संस्कृति भी सबर संस्कृति आदिवासी इलाका रे those of you who have traveled to the tribal pockets of our state हमर केवल धान न अलगा जति भी प्रजाति रो सस्य अछि इट्स अ हॉट स्पॉट ऑफ एग्रो बायोडायवर्सिटी एंड एग्रो बायोडायवर्सिटी इज द फ्यूचर ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर फॉर द एंटायर ग्लोब तेनो हमें हमर संस्कृति को लेके कला को भास्कर्य को लेके तो निश्चित भाव गर्व करू कि हमर जो नेचुरल वेल्थ अछि जो हमर मु जेमति कहली बायोडायवर्सिटी वेल्थ अछि दैट इज लिटरली इमेंस a very great coincidence that Kottaka ji Professor M.S. Swaminathan एबे सरकार हे गले ताकि भारत रत्न उपाधि रे जो आके भारत सरकार निष्पत्ति it's a very great tribute to those farmers who have conserved these land masses of the farmers varieties एवं प्रोफेसर स्वामीनाथन कर जो आलेख्य अछि ताकर जो चिंताधारा था से आदिवासी इलाका रे जो बायोडायवर्सिटी अछि ता ऊपर से काम करछथि सो यू आर एब्सोल्युटली राइट in linking our Odisha's culture to the biodiversity of our state.
How could I forget about millets, sir? ताकू नहीं कि तो मु छाड़ी परिबेनी मिलेट रो कथा रागी एबे जतबेले हमें बहुत हेल्थ कॉन्शियस हे जे छे हमें एते स्वास्थ्य कथा चिंता करू छे वर्तमान मांडिया रे पिठा भी खाइलेनी मंडा पिठा भी खाइलेनी केक भी खाइलेनी आ कुकीज भी खाइलेनी आ कोन आसे को जाउ छे एक्सपेरिमेंट चाली छी तो ताकू सर केमती भूली जिबा ताकू केमती कोन करा जे पारिबो अधिक मार्केटिंग इंटरनेशनल स्तर रे केमती पहुंच
Again, thank you so much for bringing millets here. Mandia upare ba millets upare kaya kale KLM organization को कोई ऑर्डर सेशन कराया है, but संक्षेप में यदि वो कहेंगे, everybody is talking about millets because of these reasons. One is that climate change is now the biggest challenge for the humanity. Agriculture sector ପାଇଁ हो पूरा humanity ପାଇଁ जलवायु परिवर्तन को सबुठ बड़ा एवं आम स्टेट ପାଇଁ ଯଦି ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା न्यूट्रिशन बा malnutrition also huge challenge, daunting challenge. ତେଣୁ climate change बा malnutrition को प्रतिहत କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଆପଣ ମାନେ ଯଦି ଦେଖିବେ ताले millets are the crops which kind of in unison से जिसका को प्रतिहत करि पारे कि हम राज्य परिप्रेक्षी ଆମେ ଯଦି କରିବା millet बा पुष्टि शस्य जातीय जेते भी फसल अछि ताकू गरीब आदिवासी परिवार भी चाष करते तेणु हम प्रचार प्रसार କରିବା ताले एट द लास्ट माइल गोटे आदिवासी चाषी सेथिरे संतुष्ट हबो एवं सेथिरे से बेनिफिट करबो सो दिस पर्टिकुलर डिजाइन would help would be very inclusive and would also promote equity and justice because जो rain fed areas में बा जो वर्षा जल कम होउची से एरिया रे मिलेट क्रॉप्स करा जाय एवं आउ गोटे जिंस कहया ପାଇଁ ଚାହିଁବି ଯେ ओडिशा इज नॉट वन ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट ग्रेन मिलेट क्रॉप्स इन द कंट्री कारण मिलेट्स रे बाजरा भी अछि मिलेट रे ज्वार बा जन्ना बा sorghum अछि हमर चाषी माने कि गरीब चाषी माने करछन स्मॉल मिलेट्स लिटिल मिलेट्स whether it is सुआ बा कांदू बा मांडिया जो ट्रैफिक मिले तेणु आमे ई शस्यर यदि प्रोत्साहन करिबा ताहले आमे लास्ट माइल रे आदिवासी चाषी बा गरीब चाषी मन को सहायता करिबा रेनफेड एरिया रो इकोसिस्टम को हमें प्रमोट करिबा एवं जतरे समस्त भल हबो एवं चाषी मन को भल हबा सहित हमर जलवायु परिवर्तन को प्रतिहत करिबा के माध्यम हबो एट द सेम टाइम वी विल आल्सो ब्रिंग न्यूट्रिशन सिक्योरिटी to the society. It's a very win-win for everyone.
बिल्कुल आमे जितले हमर क्विजन कथा कहूचे हमर साथ कहिले हमर सब विभिन्न प्रकार शस्य कथा कहूचे हमर खाइबा प्रणाली रंधा स्टाइल धीरे धीरे ये तो बहुत अधिक परिचित पाइलानी बहुत प्रशंसा पाउची साउंटुची आमे बहुत गुडाक एब्रॉड रे देखिबा विदेश रे देखिबा बहुत गुडाक ओडिया रो भी रेस्टोरेंट खुली गलानी जोठीटा लोक पसंद करूचोनी विदेशी माने भी भाबने आपन को मु एया पचारिया को चाहिबी जे जीआई टैगिंग गुटे बहुत भलो एवं देरी रे हेले भी हमर पाखरे वर्तमान बहुत गुडिया बढ़िया जीआई टैगिंग हिची जोगुडा को अनेक वर्ष हलानी लुचि की रहितिला साधारण जनमानसरु किंतु आहुरी अनेक गुडिये जिंस एबे भी अछि जोगुडा को लुचि की अछि अपेक्षा करिचंती केतेबेले सेमानकर पडिबो ता ऊपर टिके नजर आउ ताकू नै कि जदि हमें मार्केटिंग सहित जोड़िबा मु सर जोटा कहिले गरीब लोक मानकर जोटा गोटे समय मांडिया कहतला गरीब खाद्य सेटा एबे जाई कि 5 स्टार होटल 7 स्टार होटल रो डिशेस रे भी रहिलानी तो बहुत जिंस एबे भी छपी की रही छी जोटा रे तो मार्केटिंग वैल्यू हमें जानि पारुने ताकू किभଳି करा जाई पारिबो से जो लास्ट परसेंट जो शेष लोकटा अछि जे हटुची ताकू टिके अधिक दी पैसा अंततः मेडी जाई पारिबो
So एतरे दीटा जिंस आछि ओके गवर्नमेंट हैज नो बिजनेस टू बी इन बिजनेस गवर्नमेंट होची फैसिलिटेटर राइट गवर्नमेंट केमिति प्रोसेस आउ सिस्टम बिल्ड करिवो टू फैसिलिटेट दिस प्रोसेस ओके सो केमिति गवर्नमेंट नुआ एंटरप्रेन्योर क्रिएट करिवो एरिया रे केमिति गवर्नमेंट एक्चुअली नो पॉलिसीज तयारी करिवो गवर्नमेंट रो काम होची से सो गवर्नमेंट बयानिका भली 10टा बयानिका खोली परिवोनी किंबा ओडिसा भली रेस्टोरेंट खोली परिवोनी सो हेई परिवोनी से ओके तेणु आमको देखिया को पड़िबो गवर्नमेंट केमिति आइडेंटिफाई करिवो एई लोक मान को केमिति पॉलिसी तयारी करिवो जो माने स्प्रेड करिवे दैट्स सेटा होची गोटे सेकंड जिंस जदी देखिवो हमरो कोन होची जो माने खाद्य रे देखिवो जदी डोंट फोकस ऑन एवरीथिंग सो जीआई टैगिंग नाही अलगा गुडा करे ओके आपन को लेट्स से 7टा जीआई टैगिंग अछि 8टा जीआई टैगिंग अछि जहा अछि ओके तो जहा भी अछि ता ऊपर फोकस करो ओके तारी ऊपर पिगी बैंक करिकी अलगा फूड गुडा को पॉपुलर हबो फॉर एग्जांपल वेस्ट बेंगल रे से माने केमति पॉपुलर करले कहले जे रसगोल्लाटा ऊपर टैगिंग करिकी अलगा एक्चुअली स्वीट एक्चुअली नो टैग करले राइट तो तुमको एक्चुअली आमको करबा को पड़िबो आमको देखिबार अछि सेही दी तीनटा जिंस कोर जिंस आपन ताऊ कहबिन जे 56 पौटी भोग अछि मोर मु सबुतक टैगिंग नै कि सबुतक पॉपुलराइज करबी पॉसिबल ही नै आपन 6-7टा जिंस रे फोकस करंतु ताकू पॉपुलराइज करंतु ताकू ब्रांड करंतु ता अगेंस्ट रे आपन एंटरप्रेन्योर बिल्ड करंतु
ताहले जाय कि आपनको वैल्यू मिलिबो।
फॉर एग्जांपल मैं एबे कहबी सर रेड एंड चटनी जोटा थिला बे मयूरभंज रो मिली सिमिलपार काई चटनी माने आमे जते बेले एटा को सुनु समस्त को लागे एटा को किने कोन खाती नाली पिंपुड़ी जो काई रो चटनीटा किंतु जते बेले जीआई टैगिंग हे गला तार वैल्यू ते हे गला एठी आदिवासी मेला जो माने जाइथिबे निश्चित भेटिबे सेठी गोटे थिला लोक बहुत आग्रहर सहित ताको टिके उत्कंठा थिला गोटे आग्रह थिला जे टिके चाखिबा केमती लागे तो एटा ही होची गोटे बोध हुए गोटे बाट जो बाटरे आमे अंतत धीरे भी हो पछे लोकन पाखरे किछ किछ जिंस पहुंचे परिबा तो मोर से प्रश्न से ग्रास रूट लेवल रो तृणमूल स्तर रो लोक माने जतले बहुत बड़ा जिंस रहउची आमे केबे से मु एटा सरकारी स्तर रे आपन को जेहेतु आपन गोटे प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी आपन पाखरे से माध्यम भी अछि आपन पाखरे से क्षमता भी अछि तो आउ किभଳି भाबरे खोजा जाई पारिबो किछि एमति नियारा जिंस जोटा ओडिसा रो ब्रांड वैल्यू अछि ताको में मार्केटिंग करि पारिबा एवं ओडिसा रो जो स्वप्न आमे जे कि सेठी पहुंचीबा गर्वरे जतिकी कहूचे हुए तो काली आमे आम पिला माने जो परपीढ़ी माने आसीबे सेमान को पाए आ गोटे उज्जवल भविष्य आपे आपे तैयारी की रही जाइथिबो
सुंदर प्रश्न दिस इज अ वेरी इंपोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन आई विल से however I agree with you the government business को डिबा करना with you promote the private sector business I entirely align my thoughts with you हम facilitate करे अच्छा जहां भी है that's what we do at the design stage in the policy आपण कहले इजी उटा हजी जाईची सेगुडी केवल बात आनिबा
लोक लोचन को आसीनी बेपर
उदाहरण देबा ପାଇଁ ଆପଣ ଚାହିଁବି ଏବେ ଆମେ କୃଷି ବିଭାଗର ଦରମା ପାଏ ଯଦିଓ ହ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡଲୁମ୍ସ टेक्सटाइल्स हैंडीक्राफ्ट्स के काम करे दरମା से पाए नहीं କିନ୍ତୁ that is my additional assignment କୃଷି ବିଭାଗ ତରଫରୁ ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ନୂଆ ଇନିସିଏଟିଭ ଏବେ କରୁଛୁ ଫରଗଟନ୍ ଫୁଡ୍ସ ଇନିସିଏଟିଭ ଆପଣ ମାନ ତ ବିଲକୁଲ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କର રૂરલ ବ୍ୟାକଗ୍ରାଉଣ୍ଡ ନିଶ୍ଚିତ ଭାବରେ କେହି ବି ସହରରେ ଜନ୍ମ ହେଇକି मृत्यु हुए नहीं they would have migrated or they would have roots in the villages आगो काले not very past बहुत near past रे भी आपण देखिथिले जे गोटे चासी परिवार सब जिंस निज चाष जमी रू उत्पन्न होता what time कालक्रमे because of the infusion of brain revolution technologies किबा जो मेकानाइजेशन हला मानवा टेक्नोलॉजी रे लोक सेटा को भूली गले एबे हम देखुछु जे हम ओडिसा रे विभिन्न प्रांत रे विभिन्न फसल रो अनेक प्रजाति रही आई कैन गिव यू एग्जांपल मुगो मुगो जब देखिबे पाखा पाखी 50-60 प्रकार मुगो हम ओडिसा भितर अछि हरड डाली बा मुगो कांदुलो डाली जोटा कहू आदिवासी लागे बा रेड ग्राम बा फ्यूजन भी जे हम इंग्लिश रे कहबा अक्रॉस द स्टेट आपण विभिन्न जगह रे विभिन्न प्रजाति रे पाइबे बिरी बेजुआ बिरी जो आपण जानि बेजुआ बिरी जति यूनिक प्रोडक्ट फ्रॉम आवर स्टेट फुलबडी पड़ुची अलग जगह कंधमाल का हल्दी हे पारे किबा अदा हे पारे there are many such आमे एबे विभाग तरफ रु गोटे इनिशिएटिव नउछु एंड आई वुड लाइक टू अनाउंस दिस podium यानी फॉरगॉटन फूड्स इनिशिएटिव रे वी वुड लाइक टू मैप ऑल सच फार्मर्स वैरायटीज across the state and we would like to promote them हमर भावना के प्रति जेते फसल के बेसी उत्पादन होय सेतिरे मत आमे खाली प्रमोट करबा बिकॉज़ समय अतिबाहित हे जेबा से पछु को वेरी लाइक so it is a very futuristic thinking that we want to preserve, conserve our traditional gunpowder and use it not only for research but also augment the income of the farmers. अपन जानि छथि बाजार रे चाहिदा अछि ऑर्गेनिक प्रोड्यूस हो किबा ट्रेडिशनल आइटम रो अधिका दर दाम भी रहै एवं लोककर परचेजिंग पावर भी बढ़ते दिस इज ए सेपरेट निश प्रोडक्ट हिसाब से सेपरेट सेगमेंट ऑफ कंज्यूमर्स नाही करी हम प्रस्तुत कर पारिबा ताकू टेलिंग हमें करबा बाजार को लिंक कर the farmers also would earn extra money and that will also be profitable बहुत दिन से रही थी आपण जदी हस्ततंत्र रे देखिबा आपण के बिक्रू जो माने कोरापु अंचल रे देखिथिबे सेठी हमर केतटी स्पेसिफिक ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स अछि जो माने दे हैव देयर ओन हैंड वोकल फैब्रिक्स केरंग उदाहरण स्वरूप आपण नै करिवे गदवा मानकर केरंग इन पार्ट्स ऑफ कोरापु डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोरापु जिल्ला रे जिल्लापाल रहछि हासी से प्रोडक्ट को आज का दिन में तो हमें भुवनेश्वर था कि जानी पारो किंतु विभाग तरफ हमें ताकि रिवाइज करने के चाहिए एंड देन वी वुड लाइक टू लिंक इट टू द मार्केट वन मोर थिंग दैट यू स्पोक इन द बिगिनिंग इज दैट जो काम आपको मु समस्त को हाथ जोड़ी की विनम्र निवेदन करबी जते बळे कोन से हैंडलूम प्रोडक्ट होची किबा हैंडीक्राफ्ट प्रोडक्ट होची दयाकरी भलो चला करबे ना आपण ने फ्रिज किनिया पे जाउ टेलीविजन किनिया पे जाउ 45000 टाका 50000 टाका के काटी दउछथि किते କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଚାହିଁବି ବିନମ୍ର ନିବେଦନ ଏଗୁଡ଼ା ପ୍ରଣାମ କରିକି କହିବା ପାଇଁ ଚାହିଁବି ଦୟାକରି ହ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡଲୁମ୍ସ ଏବଂ ହ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡିକ୍ରାଫ୍ଟ ଆଇଟମକୁ ପ୍ରମୋଟ କରନ୍ତୁ ଆପଣ ସବୁ ପଇସା ବାଲା ଲୋକ ଆଉ 10 ଟଙ୍କା କି 50 ଟଙ୍କା କମ ଦେଲେ ଆପଣଙ୍କର କିଛି ଅସୁବିଧା ହେବନି ଯେତେବେଳେ ଟିକେଟ କାଟିକି ଦେବେ ସେ ପଇସା ଦେଇକି ଯିବେ
ବହୁତ ସୁନ୍ଦର ସାର୍ ମୁଁ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ବୋଧେ ମୋ କଥା କହିବାରେ ଗୋଟେ ବୋଧେ ଅଧା ଛାଡିଦେଲି ଡରୁଛେ କିନ୍ତୁ ଆଉ 5ଟା ଜିନିଷ କାଟିକି କିଣୁଛୁ ବି ସେଇଟା ବି ଗୋଟେ ସତ ଏଇଥିପାଇଁ ଯେ ଆପଣ ଏଟାକୁ ଟ୍ରେଣ୍ଡ କହିପାରିବେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନର ଯୋଉଭଳି ଭାବରେ ସମସ୍ତେ ପିନ୍ଧିବାର ଗୋଟେ ମୋହ କିମ୍ବା ଗୋଟେ ବଢିଆ ଜିନିଷ ମୁଁ ଏବେ ଦେଖୁଛି ଯୋଉ ସାମାଜିକ ଗଣମାଧ୍ୟମ ଜରିଆରେ ବହୁତ ୟଙ୍ଗ ଜେନେରେସନ ସହିତ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ କନେକ୍ଟ ହଉ ମୁଁ ଓଲ୍ଡ ଏଜ କୁ ପଳେଇଲିଣି ୟଙ୍ଗ ମାନେ ମୁଁ ସତସତିକା ୟଙ୍ଗ 20 21 ଅତି ବେଶୀରେ 30 ବର୍ଷର ପିଲାମାନଙ୍କୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଦେଖୁଛି ସେମାନଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ମାଟି ପ୍ରତି ଯୋଉ ମୋହ ନା ମାନେ ଗର୍ବ ଲାଗୁଛି କହିବେନି ମତେ ବହୁତ ଭଲ ଲାଗୁଛି ଯେ ହୁଏ ତ ପୁଣି ସେ ପୁରୁଣା କାଳ ଫେରି ଆସୁଛି ଯେ ଆମ ମାଟିର ସେ ଯୋଉ ସୁଗନ୍ଧ ଯୋଉ ସ୍ୱାଭିମାନ ଆମ ପିଲାମାନଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ କୋଉଠି ବି ଥାନ୍ତୁ ଜର୍ମାନୀ ଅଷ୍ଟ୍ରେଲିଆ ୟୁଏସ ରେ ପିଲା ବସିଛନ୍ତି ସେ ଆମର ଯୋଉ ଛୋଟିଆ ଛୋଟିଆ ଯାତ୍ରା କୋଉଠି କୋଉଟା ହେଲା ଫୋକ୍ ଗୀତ ଆମର ଯୋଉ ଲୋକ ଗୀତ ତାକୁ ବି ଲଗାତାର ଧରିକି ଶୁଣୁଛନ୍ତି ଆଉ ଆମକୁ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଏ ଗୀତଟା ଏବେ ଏତେ ସୁନ୍ଦର ତେଣୁ ଆମେ ନିଶ୍ଚିତ ଭାବରେ ଆଶା କରିବା ଆଗକୁ ଆହୁରି ବଢିଆ ଉଜ୍ଜଳ ଭବିଷ୍ୟତ ଆସୁଛି କିନ୍ତୁ ଗୋଟେ କୋଉଟା ଗୋଟେ ଗ୍ୟାପ୍ ତ ରହିଯାଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ବ୍ୟବଧାନ ତ ରହିଯାଉଛି ସାର୍ ଯୋଉ କଥା କହୁଥିଲେ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଇନିସିଏଟ୍ ତ କରୁଛି କିନ୍ତୁ କାହିଁକି ଯେତିକି ସୁଫଳ ମିଳିବା କଥା ଆମେ 100% ନହେଲେ ବି 99% କିମ୍ବା 95 ବି ଧରନ୍ତୁ 80 ବି ଧରନ୍ତୁ କାହିଁକି ମିଳିପାରୁନି ଭବାନୀ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ସେଇଟା ପଚାରିବି କୋଉ ଜାଗାରେ ହୁଏତ ଏଇଟା ବି ଆମେ ମାନିବା ସରକାରୀ ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥା ଭିତରେ ଥାଇକି ସବୁ ଜିନିଷଟା କରିବା ସେତିକି ସମ୍ଭବପର ନୁହେଁ ଯୋଉଟା ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରାଇଭେଟ ପାର୍ଟି କରିପାରେ ବା କର୍ପୋରେଟ କରିପାରିବ ତ CSR ର କଥା ମଧ୍ୟ ଆସୁଛି ଗୋଟେ କୋଉ ପ୍ରକାର ବା ଯଦି କୁହାଯାଇ ପାରିବ ସ୍କିଲ୍ ଡେଭଲପମେଣ୍ଟ କୁ ଦକ୍ଷତା ବିକାଶକୁ ନେଇକି ଆମେ ଏବେ ବହୁତ ଅଧିକ ଗୁରୁତ୍ୱ ଦଉଛେ ଆମେ ସବୁଟାକୁ ଆଉ ଟିକେ ବହୁତ ଦୂରଦର୍ଶିତାର ସହିତ ଆଉ ଟିକେ ଦେଖିପାରିବା କି ଆଉଟ ଅଫ ଦ ବକ୍ସ ଚିନ୍ତା କରିପାରିବା କି
ମୁଁ ଟିକେ ଡାଇଭର୍ଟ କରିବି ତାପରେ ଏ क्वेश्चन की आंसर କରିବି ନା ତା ଅର୍ଥ ନୁହେଁ ଯେ ମୁଁ କିଛି ଜିନିଷ ପ୍ରମୋଟ କରୁଛି ସାର୍ ସୋ ଆପଣ ଫୁଡ କଥା କହିଲେ ସୋ ମୋର କିଛି ସାଙ୍ଗ ବାହାରୁ ଆସିଥିଲେ ବାହାରୁ ମାନେ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆ ବାହାରୁ ଆସିଥିଲେ ସେମାନେ ଯାଇଥିଲେ କୋରାପୁଟ ଯାଇଥିଲେ ସୋ ସଲପ ଦେ ଲାଇକ୍ଡ ओके सो ସେମାନଙ୍କର କହିବା ହିସାବରେ ତମର ଏତେ ନ୍ୟାଚୁରାଲ ଡ୍ରିଙ୍କ ଅଛି ତମେ କେବେ କ'ଣ ଭାବିନ ଯେ ତାକୁ କେମିତି ମାନେ ମାର୍କେଟ କରିବ ତାକୁ ଇଏ କରିବ ମାନେ କାରଣ ଆପଣ ୱେଷ୍ଟର୍ଣ୍ଣ ଡ୍ରିଙ୍କ ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ୟୁଜ କରୁଛନ୍ତି
ମୁଁ ଟିକେ ଭବାନୀ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଅଟକେଇବି ଏବେ ଟଙ୍କ ତୋରାଣୀ ଗୋଟେ ନୂଆ ବଟଲ ହେଇକି ଆସିଲା ଆଉ କେତେ ବିକ୍ରି ହେଇଥିଲା ଆମେ ସମସ୍ତେ ଜାଣିଛେ
ସୋ ସଲପ ଭଳି ଜିନିଷକୁ ଆମେ କରିବାକୁ କ'ଣ ମାନେ ଚାହୁଁଛୁ ସାର୍ ଟିକେ ଗୋଟେ ମିନିଟ୍ କହିସାରିଲା ପରେ ମୁଁ ଏ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ର ଆନ୍ସରଟା ଦେବି
ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ହିଁ ପଚାରୁଛନ୍ତି ଭବାନୀ
କିନ୍ତୁ ଯଦି କୌଣସି ନୂଆ ସେମିତି କିଛି ବଜାର ଉପଯୋଗୀ କିଛି ଖାଦ୍ୟ ପଦାର୍ଥ ହେଇପାରେ ତାହେଲେ ଆଇ ଥିଙ୍କ ପ୍ରାଇଭେଟ ସେକ୍ଟର ଆପଣ ନିଜେ କହିଲେ ଯେ ପ୍ରାଇଭେଟ ସେକ୍ଟର ଏବେ ଯୋଉଟା ଶ୍ରୀ କହିଲେ ଯେ ଟଙ୍କ ତୋରାଣୀକୁ ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରାଇଭେଟ ଏଣ୍ଟରପ୍ରାଇଜ ତାକୁ ପ୍ରମୋଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ସୋ if that is an excisable item excise ବୋଲି ଆସୁଛି ଚଳପଟା ମଦ ହିସାବରେ ଯାଉଛି ଦେଶୀ ମଦ ହିସାବରେ ଯାଉଛି ବୋଲି କହୁଛନ୍ତି I have never tasted ଜାଣିବାରେ ସେଥିରେ କମ ଆଲକୋହଲ ଥିବ ବୋଲି ଭାବୁଛି କିନ୍ତୁ ବହୁତ ଜଣ ତାକୁ ପସନ୍ଦ ବି କରୁଥାଇପାରନ୍ତି କିନ୍ତୁ ଯେହେତୁ ଆଦିବାସୀ ସଂସ୍କୃତିର ପାର୍ଟ we need to respect the culture of the tribes ଏବଂ ଯଦି ତାକୁ ପ୍ରମୋଟ ସେଇ ହିସାବରେ କରାଯାଇ ପାରିବ so personally speaking I do not have any objection
ଆପଣ ଆନ୍ସର ପାଇଗଲେ
ମୁଁ ଆନ୍ସର କରୁଛି ତ ଆପଣଙ୍କର ପୂର୍ବ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ର ସି এই যে জিনিসটা অ্যাকচুয়ালি নো কোশ্চিন হচ্ছে চিকেন এন্ড এগ সিনারিও আপন যে পচারলে সো আপনার কিছু বি হলে লোক হি তোমার সিটিজেন ওড়িশার তাকে সেইমানে নেকি যাবে সবু জিনিস গভর্নমেন্ট করে পারিবনি কেবে বি রাইট সেই জিনিস যদি গুজরাটরে হইতান্তা তোমার লোক মানে এতে এন্টারপ্রাইজিং তাকে নেকি যাবে সেমানে তাকে মার্কেট করিকি ইয়ে করিবে কোটি আম ভিতরে সে ডরটা রহুচি যে মু গোটে কিছু নূয়া জিনিসকু জম্প করিপারিবি কি মু নিজে করিপারিবি কি ସବୁବେଳେ গভর্নমেন্ট কু কহিদেলে যে গভর্নমেন্ট এটা মো পাই করদব এটা সম্ভব নয় অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমার মানে 4.5 কোটি অ্যাকচুয়ালি লোক ওকে তা দিরু কোন আমি 50টা এন্টারপ্রেনিয়র বাহার করি পারিবানি যে অ্যাকচুয়ালি তাকু নেই কি মানে বিশ্ব বাজারে বিখ্যাত করিবে এটা হেই পারুনি কারণ উইল ইস্যু I don't think there is a skill issue. There is a will issue. Okay, that's one. Number two, ଆମର ସବୁବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ରହୁଛି ମନରେ ଯେ ଆମ ପାଖରେ ସେ କ୍ୟାପାସିଟି କି କ୍ୟାପାବିଲିଟି ଅଛି କି ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଆମକୁ ସପୋର୍ଟ କରିବ କି ଫ୍ୟାସିଲିଟେଟ୍ କରିବ କି ଓକେ ଯେଉଁମାନେ ଆଗରୁ ବିଜନେସ୍ ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିଛନ୍ତି ସେ ପଞ୍ଜାବୀ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ଗୁଜରାତି କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି କି ମାରୱାଡ଼ି କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ସେମାନେ ଗୋଟେ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ବିଲ୍ଡ ହେଇଛି ଜଣେ ଯଦି ଛିଡ଼ା ହେଲା କିଛି କରିବାକୁ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ସପୋର୍ଟ କରୁଛି ଆମର କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ବିଲ୍ଡ ହେଇପାରୁନି ତ ଆମେ କେମିତି କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ବିଲ୍ଡ କରିବା ଜଣେ ଯଦି ଏଣ୍ଟରପ୍ରିନିୟର ହଉଛି ଆଉ 20ଟା ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ ସେ କେମିତି ଏଣ୍ଟରପ୍ରିନିୟର କରିବ ମୋ ଜୀବନର ଗୋଟେ ସ୍ୱପ୍ନ ଯେ ମୁଁ 20ଟା ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ ଏଣ୍ଟରପ୍ରିନିୟର ତିଆରି କରିବି ଯେଉଁମାନେ ମୋତେ ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି ସେମାନେ ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି ଯେ 20ଟା ଲୋକ କେମିତି ଏଣ୍ଟରପ୍ରିନିୟର ହେବେ ଆଉ ମୁଁ ଦେଖିବି ଯେ ସକ୍ସେସଫୁଲ ଏଣ୍ଟରପ୍ରିନିୟର ହେବେ ସେଇଟା ହେଉଛି ମୋର ଭିଜନ ଯଦି ଜଣେ ଜଣେ ଲୋକ ଯଦି 20 ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ ଯଦି ବାହାର କଲେ ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ ଇସ୍ୟୁ ଯିବ ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ଆପଣ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଏଗ୍ରିକଲଚର ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟର ସେଗୁଡ଼ା ସବୁ ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ଆପଣ ସଲ୍ଭ କରିବେ ଆର କିଛି ରିପ୍ଲେସମେଣ୍ଟ ହିଁ ନାହିଁ ବିନା ଏଣ୍ଟରପ୍ରିନିୟରରେ ଆପଣ ଗ୍ରୋ କରିପାରିବେ गवर्नमेंट खाली फैसिलिटेटर
नहीं एब्सोल्युटली नहीं किंतु रिस्क टेकिंग बिहेवियर जोटा आपण कहउचंती एटा तो गवर्नमेंट हो कि को प्राइवेट पार्टी आपण भितरे भितरे इनकलकेट कर परिबन एटा को हमको निज को निजे करिया को पड़िबा डर के आगे जीते एटा तो जानिबा को पड़िबा से कोन अछि बाट आपण के हिसाब रे कारण आपण अनेक वर्ष धरि कि गोटे विजनरी हिसाब रे पछे आपण खाली कृषि को नै कि तो बहुत किछि भाबी छंती किंतु कलाटा को नै कि भाबी छंती आ कोन हेई पारे हमें समय सरी आसुची मु तागरु आपनकर एक्सपर्ट व्यू टिके नै जिबा को चाहिबी आ कोन हेई पारे
जेतु हमें कला किबा कृषि ले कृषि सामग्री आलोचना करते हैं दिस एग्जांपल कृषि क्षेत्र में हमें भाबु जे जदि दुबई मार्केट को जीवो अमेरिका जीवो ईयू मार्केट जीवो ताले जाके एक्सपोर्ट ओडिसा इज नाउ राइस सर्कुलर स्टेट फॉर द लास्ट 15 or 16 years एबे ओडिसा इज द थर्ड और फोर्थ लार्जेस्ट कंट्रीब्यूटर टू द एफसीआई ग्रुप 12 राज्य में ओडिसा रो चावल जाके पहुंचला करे एक लोग खाता पालो दिस इज टू नो I mean, we are also contributing when it goes beyond the borders of our state. It is export problem. Maybe
I agree.
May not have come to that stage. एबे आजिकाली जे हम मांडिया जाके दुबई में पहुंचला सेते गला से सवारे कहली एबे ओडिसा मांडिया काटिबो सारा दिया it has already gone beyond the border एबे हमें therefore my friend Vishwajit is there many of the agricultural commodities we are exporting to Nepal हम ओडिसा रो कलाहांडी रो कॉटन बांग्लादेश को जाए बांग्लादेश रे थिसु पोशाक रखते किछि दिन तले मुझे I just flagged off the export of our Odisha's cashew to other countries so it is not happening but it is not happening at a scale
Koraput coffee we can
thanks for reminding Koraput coffee itself is a brand এবং Koraput coffee ର सक्सेस को आधार करिके एबे राज्य कैबिनेट माननीय मुख्यमंत्री को अनुमोदन करमे एबे हम ओडिशा कॉफी मिशन सृष्टि करब so maybe in few years time हमर ओडिशा रा कॉफी आहुरी आधार पड़ी पारे so we are already on the job हमें ओडिशा रा ब्रांड को हमें किबळी भाबरे ग्लोबल स्टेज पे एंड रेस्ट ऑफ द इंडिया स्टेज पे किबळी भाबरे आहुरी सुंदर करि पारिबो सेति पय उद्यम रथ अछु दुईटा जिंस दरकार गोटे जिंस को व्यापार करिया के गोटेला पॉलिसी सपोर्ट गोटेला बजेट सपोर्ट इंधन नथले गाडी चलिबो पंचायत कारण आवर गवर्नमेंट इज कमिटेड इन गिविंग बजेटरी सपोर्ट टू ऑल सच
इनिशिएटिव
ग्लोबल इनिशिएटिव एवं पॉलिसी सपोर्ट रहिछि बोली भाबुछि सेति पय द इकोसिस्टम अराउंड द इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन एंड इंडस्ट्री एंड मेनी अदर स्पीयर्स
सर गोटे सजेशन मोर एतरे सो यू नो आमे जेतले 2001 रे थिले जेतले कलाहांडी मृत्यु एगुडा सब देखिले सेटा सब सरी गलानी सेटा सब हम पछरे राइट 20 वर्ष 24 हे गलानी सो आमे माने सेल्फ सफिशिएंट हेलुनी हमर बजेट सरप्लस टे मोर गोटे सजेशन बिकॉज आपण पॉलिसी तयारी करचंती आमे आखि आमे कस्टमाइज करिवा ग्रांट गुडा एक्चुअली नो कस्टमाइज करले कोन हबो फॉर एग्जांपल मोर लेट्स से कॉफी ऊपर फोकस करिवार अछि से एरिया रे मु गोटे विलेज रो एक्चुअली नो बजेट तयारी कली से विलेज को से बजेट देली ओके कहले तो चावल फावल दिया हबनी आ तमे सेल्फ सफिशिएंट नाओ तमे विलेज बजेट गोटे तयारी करो तमरो कॉफी तयारी कर सेमती आ गोटे टाउन रो जेतले से बजेटिंग कले आपण बजेटिंग एक्चुअली से टाउन बेसिस रे आपण कले रादर देन यू नो बम्बार्डिंग द फ्री स्टफ इन एवरी एरिया सो मोर एटा खाली सजेशन आपण माने डिस्कशन
is it possible sir again
I really agree with you. I mean, let's say customize kariba, shooting to your context kariba. That is always this. You must be an expert in the field. This particular expert of you, I think we should
thank you.
बहुत सुंदर ने आमे जेतबे समस्ते ओडिसा को नेकी आउ गोटे स्तर रे पहुंचाय को चाहूचे एवं रास्ता बहुत अधिक मु कहबेनी जे आमे मूलरू आरंभ करिने आमे आरंभ करि सारलेनी किंतु जेतबे आरंभ करला परे आमे देखुचे आहुरी रास्ता केते दूर अछि सेठी सर कोना कोठी मनरे बेले बेले सबु जेतबे टिके थकी पडू केतबे टिके संघर्ष करिया को पडुची केतबे टिके लागुची पहुंची पारिबिनी कि सेठी तो ए जगह टिके पाखरे जे थांती परिवार लोक बंधु एमाने टिके साहस जोगे दियंती तो आमे जब देखुचे ओडिसा रे कथा कहूचे खाली ओडिसा ओडिया लोक एटा भवानी आपन को बदर क्वेश्चन रहइबो कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड भी कोन करची मु प्रथमे अरविंद सांकर नै जिबी तो ए एमती जगह रे सरकार होंतु डिपार्टमेंट्स हो केते पहुंची पारुची से लोक मान के आगे जो मान को कांधरे हमें भाबुची आगो को जाई परिबा
निश्चित भावे ଏବଂ ଆପଣ ବି କହିଲେ ଯେ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ସରକାର କରିପାରିବ ନାହିଁ we need the help of the civil society the citizen and everyone ତେଣୁ ଆମ ଓଡ଼ିଶା ପରିପ୍ରେକ୍ଷୀରେ ଆମେ ଯଦି କହିବା ସରକାରଙ୍କର ଯେଉଁ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ନୀତି ଅଛି that all have been brought up with inclusivity and also a very good design that should to meet the objective ଆମେ ଆଶା କରିବା ଆମେ ସମସ୍ତେ ଯଦି ସେଥିରେ ହାତ ମିଳେଇବା ତାହେଲେ ଆଗାମୀ ଦିନରେ we will definitely reach
बहुत सुंदर भवानी एक्चुअली कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड कौन करिबो कौन सहायता करिबो
सी कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड एक्चुअली नो आपण जदी गोटे क्लाइमेट क्रिएट करिवे कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड एक्चुअली नो बिल्ड करिवो सो यू नो थैंक्स टू दिस गवर्नमेंट से माने बहुत भलो भलो कॉर्पोरेट रे बे पॉलिसी मेकिंग रे लोकन को नै के आसलिनी ओके सो से माने भी बुझुचंदी जे कॉर्पोरेट रे कोन दरकार तेनु पॉलिसी मेकिंग रे हेल्प करचंदी मु ना नोनी किछि लोकंकर बट इन कॉर्पोरेट रो लोक आनी की करचंदी नवीन पटनायक को से दृष्टि धन्यवाद देवा दरकार बट किंतु सेकंड जिंस एक्चुअली आपण जे देखिबे इथरे जे कॉर्पोरेट जहा करिवो न करिवो सीएसआर फंड अछि से माने यूज करचंदी को जे कॉर्पोरेट करिवा अपेक्षा कॉर्पोरेट रे जो माने अछंती ओके काई की चाकरी रे बसी की तमे भाबुच जे खाली नो मासी को चेक पाइबो आ एक्चुअली ओडिसा रे करिवनी जो ओडिया भाई माने बाहर अछंती कॉर्पोरेट रे अछंती आसी की करो जीवन रे एक्चुअली कोन माने खाली माने आज गुड़गांव रे अछि गोटे फ्लैट काली बॉम्बे रे आ गोटे फ्लैट अछि एमती माने खाली फ्लैट किनी चलीबो जीवन रे ना किछि करिवार अछि तो एमती किछि नाही जे न खाई की लोक मरि जीवो तो गवर्नमेंट को केबे भी दोष देबिनी सब जिंस पई से जो कॉर्पोरेटेड लोक अछंती कॉर्पोरेट भी एक्चुअली नो केते सीएसआर फंड दबो तुमको 100टा टाटा क्रिएट करिया पड़ियो 100टा बिरला क्रिएट करिया
पड़ियो के आगु को आसीबार अछि एठी मु बहु जन को देखिया को पाउची किछि उनका मुहरे हस भी देखिया को पाउची आशा करिबा एटा टिके आगु को निश्चित भाबे जीव बारंबार जेमति कहूचे डरी बा रिस्पेक्टिंग तो बिहेवियर रहिबा दरकार किछि तो रिस्क नबा जीवन आज अच्छी काली ना जो बंचा रिस्क नहीं पारुचे बहुत किसी बहुत किसी करहब ये आशा करके मत लगुच ये आम सारिबा बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर अरविंद पाढ़ी एवं भवानी महांती आपन को भी किंतु गोटे जिनिस जे आम पाखे बहुत एमती जिनिस अच्छी एवं सबु बेले आम जो कहती ओडिया टिके अलसुआ आम मैंने समस्ते टिके पखाड़ भात कहीं खाईदेला टिके घड़ी पड़िया इच्छा हुए से एटीट्यूड रो बोध हुए आम बाहर कहीं मु ना से जो उज्जवल मुह गुड़ा देखुची नुआ पीढ़ी आई जो थकी पड़ा हाँ टिके ठीक अच्छे काली तो अच्छी परदिन अच्छी देखीदबा किंतु एटा ब्रेक है मत लगुच माने बापा जो अमल जो धारा चली आसला सेटा धीरे धीरे भांगुची आमे भी से ताल देकी वर्तमान जातीय स्तर नुहे अंतर्जातीय स्तर पर्यंत खूब जल्दी पहुंचीबा एवं सबुठु दुई जन जाक मोर अतिथि माने जेमती कहिले निश्चित भाव में आम दृष्टि रही जो कोण अनुकोण रे जो पांत अंचल रे अछंती आ सबु आमर जेतिकी सब भल जिनस सेठी छुपिकी एबे भी रही तेणु आपण मान ये गोटे आह्वान निश्चित भाव में आम समस्ते कोटी ना कोटी चेष्टा करबा कोन नुआ जिनस बाहरिबो आ ओडिसा रा ना ताकू नै के हम आगु को पहुंचे परिबा बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपण मानकर मूल्यवान समय देले हमकु थैंक यू सो मच
जय जगन्नाथ
Now, after this rich and rewarding discussion, we will proceed for the book launch of Unfolding Loi. So let me invite Shri Pratap Somvanshi and Yatish Kumarji for the launch and the subsequent discussion. Let's all clap for them and welcome them on the stage. So let me request everybody to settle down. We'll begin this intriguing conversation on the book Unfolding Lowy now. So I request your attention.
बहुत बहुत नमस्कार। इस कार्यक्रम को शुरू करने से पहले मैं चाहूँगा कि जो व्यक्तित्व हमारे बगल में बैठा है हम उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा परिचय दें और फिर हम अपने केंद्र बिंदु विषय पे वापस आए। तो जो सामने बैठे इंसान हैं प्रताप सोमवंशी, बहुत सरल हृदय, किस्सा गोई और गजलकार, कवि, पत्रकार, संपादक। तो इतने सारे गुण लिए यह व्यक्ति यहाँ बैठे हैं। इतवार छोटा पड़ गया जैसे गजल संग्रह को लेकर आए। लोई जिस पर बातचीत चल रही है वो नेपाली भाषा में, अंग्रेजी भाषा में, गुजराती भाषा में इस पे काम चल रहा है। और प्रताप भाई का एक ऑडियो स्टेशन है कहन जारी, ये इस पे गजल का ये स्टोरी टेलिंग सेशन होता है। लगभग मुझे लगता है 34 वर्ष से पत्रकारिता और 23 वर्ष कोई संपादक हो, इतने घने अनुभव के साथ एक ऐसा व्यक्ति जो हिंदुस्तान जो हमारी जो पेपर है, न्यूज़ पेपर है, उसकी हिंदी दैनिक का MD है, मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर हैं, तो प्रबंधन भी इनके साथ जुड़ता, एडिटर, हाँ, प्रबंधन भी उसके साथ, सर पत्रकारिता के साथ ये जुड़ जाता है। तो मैं आज का जो मूल कार्यक्रम है, लोई जो नाटक इन्होंने लिखा है, उस पर बात करने से पहले मैं चाहूंगा इनका एक और परिचय चित्रा मुदगल जी के शब्दों में दूं, ताकि आप उसकी गहराई, इस किताब, इस नाटक की गहराई को समझ पाएं। वो चित्रा मुदगल जी किसी परिचय की मोहताज नहीं है। वो कहती हैं कि सब वर्तमान रंग कर्म के ठहरे जल में एक ऐसी कंकड़ फेंकी है प्रताप सोमवंशी ने जिसका आलोडन और कंपन समकालीन नाट्यक्रम के इतिहास में अलग से एक नया पृष्ठ जोड़ेगा। तो ऐसी शुभकामना चित्रा मुदगल जी ने इस किताब को दी है। और अब मैं शुरू करूंगा सर कि पत्रकारिता से लेकर के, गजलकार से लेकर के, कवि से लेकर के ये अचानक नाटककार, थोड़ी सी मैं चाहूंगा कि आप अपने पूरा जो इसके पीछे का इतिहास है उसको समेटते हुए हम फिर किताब की चर्चा शुरू करेंगे।
सबसे पहले तो अचानक कुछ नहीं होता मेरे जीवन में, बहुत कुछ आपके भीतर घट रहा होता है। यह अलग बात है कि उसमें कुछ रचा जाता है, बहुत कुछ बच जाता है। जो रचा जाता है वो भी एक प्रक्रिया का हिस्सा होता है। कई बार वो कुछ बनता है, कुछ नहीं बनता है, और कई बार कुछ चीजें अलग अलग क्रम में, मतलब मेरा एक शेर है कि, और मेरे साथ तो और भी है कि गजलों की जो किताब आई वो 26 साल बाद आई, 26 साल लगे। नाटक भी करीब 11-12 साल पहले कंसीव हुआ, लिखना शुरू किया। तो और क्यों, क्योंकि मेरा ये होता है कि शेर मेरा है कि मुझे अपने किए में कुछ न कुछ कम दिख ही जाता है, मुझे अपने किए में कुछ न कुछ कम दिख ही जाता है। कभी ऐसा नहीं लगता, कभी वैसा नहीं।
क्या बात।
तो ये लगता है कि अगर जैसे गजलों की मेरी किताब है तो उसमें अगर कभी किसी ने कहा कि यार ये शेर, इस बात को फला व्यक्ति ने और बेहतर तरीके से कहा है, तो और मुझे अगर वो शेर मिल जाता था तो मैं अपने शेर हटा दूं। मैंने इतनी अच्छी बात कह दी, अभी मेरी बात हल्की लगी।
अरे क्या बात।
तो उसे मैं काटता कई सारी गजलें निकालता गया
जी।
और एक दिन ऐसा हुआ कि मेरे दोस्तों ने कहा कि इसको ले जा रहे हैं कि उस दिन में ये पहाड़ की किताब वाली संख्या में आ जाएगी। तो कोई जरूरी नहीं है, मैं आज भी मानता हूँ कि मेरी गजलें ही पढ़ी जाए, मेरी गजलों की किताब ही चले, मेरा नाटक ही पढ़ा जाए। अच्छा साहित्य होना चाहिए, कविता से प्रेम करने का मतलब अपनी कविता से प्रेम करना नहीं, कविता से प्रेम करना, बच्चों से प्रेम करने का मतलब अपने बच्चे से प्रेम करना नहीं। तो अच्छा साहित्य लिखा जाए, अच्छा साहित्य आप पढ़ें, उस यात्रा में अगर आप कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं तो कंट्रीब्यूट कर दीजिए। तो इसीलिए मेरी जो लिखने की रफ्तार है वो कम है, किताबें भी कम हैं, और लेकिन मैं वही कोशिश करता रहता हूँ कि कुछ बात अगर बनती है तो बात बने कि मेरी बातें तुम तक पहुंचे,
जी।
तब तो कोई मतलब है।
तब तो
मेरी बातें तुम तक पहुंचे तब तो कोई मतलब है। मेरी बातें, अविनाश भाई गौर कीजिएगा कि मेरी बातें तुम तक पहुंचे तब तो कोई मतलब है। लफ्जों को पैबंद लगाकर किसको शायर होना है।
वाह वाह
तो
भाई।
मैं लफ्जों को पैबंद लगाने वाला काम नहीं कर रहा, कोशिश करता हूँ।
तो हम ये देख रहे हैं प्रताप भाई कि हम कविता गजल करते हुए आज की डेट में नाटक बहुत कम लिखा जा रहा है इस तरीके से। तो आपने एक ऐसे किरदार को चुना है, कबीर की पत्नी लोई को। तो मैं जब पढ़ रहा था इसको तो मैं देख रहा था कि मुझे याद इस तरह से मैं देख रहा था कि जैसे मेहरू हैं अमीर खुसरो की पत्नी, या शिवरानी जी हैं प्रेमचंद की पत्नी, या फिर श्यामा हरिवंश राय बच्चन की पत्नी, ये प्रकाशवती यशपाल की पत्नी, या विष्णुप्रिया चैतन्य महाप्रभु की पत्नी। ये सारे ऊर्जा पुंज हैं जो पत्नी के रूप में एक शख्स के पीछे खड़ी रही हैं, जिसके बारे में बहुत कम बातें की गई हैं। और कबीर की लोई भी मुझे लगता है कि बहुत ही कम है। लगता है भीष्म साहनी का उपन्यास एक रहा है, या रांगेव राघव का उपन्यास है लोई का ताना, ऐसा कुछ है। तो ये आपकी लोई कैसे आई, आप किरदार कैसे जन्मा और कितना भिन्न है?
देखिए मेरी लोई पत्नी है, ये एक उसका जीवन का हिस्सा है। पत्नी के नाम पे उपन्यास लिखी, ये नाटक लिखी। मैंने उसको पत्नी की भूमिका बनी। मैंने उससे 650 साल पहले कि एक स्वतंत्र चेता स्त्री की पहचान के तौर पर लिखा, क्योंकि आपके जहन में बार बार आता है कि आप जितनी स्त्रियों को जानते हैं वो स्त्रियां राजा की रानी है, ऋषि कन्याएं हैं, किसी एक सुल्तान की बेगम है, योद्धा रानी झांसी की रानी लक्ष्मीबाई, गार्गी, मैत्रेयी, अपेला, अपाला, और या सती है, साध्वी है, अप्सराएं हैं, देवी है। आप इन सब चीजों को जानते हैं। तो एक साधारण स्त्री, स्वतंत्र स्त्री उस समय क्या कर रही थी 650 साल पहले, या 200 साल पहले, या 400 साल पहले, एक लेखक के मन में, एक व्यक्ति के मन में ये ख्याल आता है। उस ख्याल के लिए जब मैं और मेरी पत्नी सामने बैठी है प्रतिमा
जी,
तो हम लोग प्रभास जी की पहली पुण्यतिथि थी, तो पहली पुण्यतिथि का नाटक में हम गए थे, और पुण्यतिथि में शुरू चल रहा था कबीर इनका क्षेत्र से।
हाँ,
तो वो नाटक में लोई का कैरेक्टर आता है। लोई कहती है संवाद में कि मैं तुमसे प्रेम नहीं करती, मैं साहूकार के बेटे से प्रेम करती हूँ। तो कबीर कहते हैं चलो तुमको मिला के लाते हैं। तो मुझे लगा कि यार 650 साल पहले क्या ये संवाद संभव था? अगर ये संवाद संभव था तो ये कौन लोग थे, क्या ऐसी परिस्थिति थी? क्योंकि हम लोग 250-300 वर्ष से मैकाले साहब का लिखा पढ़ते आए हैं कि भारत एक सपेरों का देश है। हमको लगता था कि हाँ है हम सपेरों के देश, हम कुछ अपनी हरकतें भी ऐसी करते हैं कि उनकी बात सही लगती है। जब सपेरों जैसे सपेरों, माफ करिएगा, जो सपेरे हैं उस कम्युनिटी की बात नहीं कर रहा, लेकिन जिस लेवल पे जिस चीजों को जाकर देख के वो उसको उन्होंने एलाबोरेट किया था कि हाँ हम उसी तरह से एक आदिम तरीके से जीने वाले लोग हैं, और हम जो नई चीजें हैं उसको देख सहज नहीं पाते हैं, और हम ऐसे ही। तो अगर ये 300 वर्ष पहले जो कह रहे थे सही है, तो जो 650 वर्ष पहले का ये संवाद है, ये क्या? उस तलाश में, उस स्त्री की तलाश में भटकते भटकते मुझे लोई की यात्रा मिली। ये लोई चूंकि एक पत्नी थी, जैसे कबीर एक पति थे, तो लोई का जो पत्नी का पक्ष है वो भी इस नाटक में है, लेकिन लोई स्वतंत्र चेता स्त्री के तौर पर सामने है। लोई जो मरती है सिकंदर लोधी के दरबार में, लोई जो लड़ती है जोगियों से, बैरागियों से, जो उस वक्त के जितने लोग थे, कबीर जहां जहां टकराते हैं सबका दस्तावेजीकरण है और सब चीज आपके सामने है।
जी।
लेकिन उसी काल में उसी साथ एक स्त्री भी रहती है जो टकराती है। कबीर ने जो कहा कि जो घर जा रहे अपना चले हमारे साथ, तो पहला घर तो जो जा रहा था वो लोही का ही है, क्योंकि घर दोनों का है।
बिल्कुल
कबीर
बिल्कुल
लोही का दोनों का घर है।
जी।
घर जला तो लोही का भी है,
जी।
लोही ही साथ चले। इसीलिए इसका टैगलाइन भी हमने लिखा है, चले कबीरा साथ।
जी।
जो घर जा रहे अपना चले हमारे साथ, तो चले कबीरा साथ को लोही चली। लोही उन सारी जगहों में टकराती हुई मिली जहां जहां कबीर टकरा रहे थे। बस उसकी टकराहट जो इतिहास के पन्नों में खो गई थी, उसकी टकराहट को पहचानने का, उसकी टकराहट की पड़ताल का ये नाटक है।
तो प्रताप भाई ये बताइए कि ये यात्रा कितनी लंबी है? मुझे लगता है कि ये कोई एक दिन की यात्रा तो नहीं है। लोही की भले नाटक है अभी, और मुझे मतलब पूरी आशा है उसके आगे जाकर के मैं बात भी करूंगा इस टॉपिक पे, लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि लंबी यात्रा रही होगी लोही की एक नाटक के रूप में आने से पहले।
पहली चीज तो ये कि नाटक का स्वरूप था ही नहीं।
जी।
पहले मैंने कहा कि लंबी कविता लिखेंगे।
जी जी जी।
खंड काव्य तो नहीं,
हाँ।
उस तरह से, लेकिन एक लंबी कविता लिखेंगे। तो लिखा मैंने 3-4 पेज, तो बात बनी नहीं। फिर मैंने कहा कि कुछ कहानी के क्रम में लिखे, वो भी बात नहीं बनी। फिर वो मेरे सामने आ जाती थी, मुझे लगा कि इसको नाटक में ही लिखना चाहिए, तो लोही जीवित होगी। और एक मन में मोह था कि जिस कैरेक्टर को मैं ऐसे देख रहा हूँ, अगर उसको स्टेज पे विजुअलाइज किया जाएगा तो ज्यादा लोग उसको देख पाएंगे, समझ पाएंगे। और दो माध्यम, जो अभिनय का माध्यम है और जो लिखने का माध्यम है, जो पढ़ना है, जो देख के उसको तैयार करना है, तो ज्यादातर लोगों तक पहुंचेगी। तो एक भाव ये था। तो छोटे छोटे नाटक मैंने लिखे थे।
जी।
बड़ा नाटक किताब के रूप में नाटक लिखने का साहस भी नहीं था। और जब मैंने पहले पूरा नाटक लिख लिया, तो नरेश ऋषि जी अभी दिवंगत हुए, स्वर्गीय नरेश ऋषि जी 90 वर्ष की आयु में, और रेडियो नाटक के वो एक तरह से पायनियर थे। मुंशी पारीलाल, उनका लिखा नाटक 14 वर्ष तक विविध भारती से ब्रॉडकास्ट हुआ हवा महल में। तो वो पिता तुल्य मेरे थे, इलाहाबाद में रहते थे, उनका इसलिए था। मैंने कहा कि आप इसे सुन लीजिए। क्या खूबसूरत बात उन्होंने कही। उन्होंने कहा कि भाई देखो, जब दो लोग बात करते हैं कि एक दूसरा से कहता है सीधी सीधी बात करो, नाटक मत करो, सीधी सीधी बात करो, नाटक मत करो।
जी।
मैं तुमसे उल्टी बात कह रहा हूँ, सीधी सीधी बात मत करो, नाटक करो। तो इसमें तुम्हारे नाटक के एलिमेंट कम है। तो नाटक करो, नाटक कहाँ है?
ओके।
कहानी
अच्छा अच्छा।
तुमने किस्सा कोई कर दी है,
अरे।
किस्सा कोई नाटक में ये अंतर होता है।
जी जी।
तब मुझे लगा कि हाँ, एक बड़े नाटक लिखने में ये जोखिम होता है कि आप बहुत जगह सफाट हो जाते हैं, बहुत चीजें विजुअलाइज करते हुए भी नहीं हो पाती हैं, बहुत चीजें आप दृश्य के हिसाब से आपको लगता है कि जो आपका दर्शक है वो समझ गया है, आपने उसको लिख दिया, लेकिन वो बात बनती नहीं है। तो उसका पहला ड्राफ्ट।
अच्छा।
दूसरा मैंने चित्रा जी को जब दिया कि आप इसकी भूमिका लिख दीजिए, तो आप जैसे उसको जानते हैं
जी।
वो तो मतलब उन्होंने देखा नाटक, उन्होंने कहा ये बताओ, कबीर तो औरतों के खिलाफ बहुत नाटक बोलता रहता था, और कबीर के बहुत सारे पद है महिलाओं के खिलाफ। तो मैंने कहा कि नहीं, ऐसे कोई नहीं, ये कहा है हैदर प्रसाद जी ने, ये कहा है, बड़ा नहीं कहा है।
उसको आपने कन्वर्सेशन में कवर किया है पूरे किताब में। जी।
मुझे मत बताओ,
बहुत अच्छे से कवर किया आपने।
इस तरह से बहुत सारे क्रम जुड़े।
इनफैक्ट मेरा जो अगला प्रश्न है वो वहीं पे आ रहा था जहां से आपको मैं पकड़ रहा हूं कि 600 वर्ष से सोई लोई को आज के स्त्री विमर्श के तहत जो आप देखते हैं, और आपने मुझे लगता है उसमें किरदार भी वैसे ही गढ़े हैं कि ये विमर्श वहां पे एक सही दिशा पकड़ पाए। तो मैं आपसे गुजारिश करूंगा कि इस पक्ष को थोड़ा सा आप और विस्तार दें कि वो जो किरदार का सिलेक्शन है, जैसे आपने जो है नीमा कबीर की माँ और नीलू जुल्हा को छोड़ दिया, आपने माँ को रखा है ना, और लोई को रखा है, उनकी चाची को रखा है। मतलब मैं जो देख रहा था अपनी नजर से, पाठक की नजर से, वहां पे वो किरदार अपनी बात रख रहे हैं, बड़े सशक्ति से रख रहे हैं। तो मैं थोड़ा थोड़ा आपके मुंह से सुनना चाहता हूँ कि कैसे ये गठन हुआ किरदारों का।
कबीर के पिता भी नाटक की एक सीमा होती है कि
जी।
अगर मैं उसको उपन्यास लिखूंगा तो मैं उसके सारे पात्रों को लाके रख दूंगा, लेकिन नाटक की सीमा है कि जो बात आपको कहनी है वो चीज सामने से चली जाए, क्योंकि उसके 90 मिनट का एक समय है, 90 मिनट के समय में जो आपका टारगेट है वो पहुंच जाए, और ऐसा न हो कि सब आके सारे कैरेक्टर आके ओवर पावर कर ले, या आके इतना वो मोटा जाल कर दे कि समझ नहीं आए कि बात क्या कही जाती है। तो पूरे नाटक में कभी भी पिता की कोई ऐसी भूमिका नहीं थी कि जिससे वो नाटक प्रभावित होता। लोई की पिता की भूमिका थी कि वो एक लड़की का बाप है, वो कैसा उसका पालन पोषण है उसको वो रखा है,
जी।
लेकिन उसको मैंने किनारे एक तरह से, जैसे कहते हैं आप कि क्रिकेट में जो आप स्टेडियम में भेज देते हैं भाई चलो उसको पवेलियन में लगा देते हैं,
जी जी।
तो वो पवेलियन, तो वो मैंने उसको बैठा दिया कि भाई चलो ये जो पूरा मैच है
हाँ।
ये साथ में मिलके खेलेंगे।
नहीं, और आपने जो मैं फुल्ली अप्रिशिएट करता हूँ कि आपने जो बहुत बहुत आसान।
समझने में भी आसानी रही और लोगों को भी चलता है कि हाँ, दरअसल स्त्री माने, अगर आप स्त्री की बात कर रहे हैं
जी।
तो सिर्फ वही स्त्री नहीं, उसी काल में कबीर की माँ भी स्त्री,
जी।
कबीर की माँ की पड़ोसी स्त्री जिसको आप चाची कहते
जी
हैं वो
जी
भी स्त्री।
जी जी।
तो ये स्त्रियां हैं, अलग अलग पीढ़ियों की स्त्रियां हैं, अलग अलग पीढ़ियों की स्त्रियां क्या संवाद कर रही हैं, क्या उनकी संवेदनात्मक जो कनेक्ट है वो है, क्या उनकी मुश्किलें हैं, क्या उनकी दिक्कतें हैं, क्या उनकी सोच समझ है, क्या उनकी सोच की सीमाएं, सब कुछ है। क्योंकि लोई तभी खड़ी हो पाएगी कि जब वो अपनी माँ अपनी सास के बारे में खड़ी होकर बात करेगी और सब आपस में बात करेगी, तब जाके वो लोई ज्यादा बेहतर तरीके से पिक्चराइज हो पाएगी, वो सामने वो आपको दिख पाएगी।
दो चीज मुझे और इसमें समझनी थी प्रताप जी आपसे, कि आपने इस पूरे नाटक को 3 कालखंड में लिखा है, मतलब अलग अलग, जब बिल्कुल बच्ची होती है लोई, फिर 25 साल का एक जंप है, फिर आप सीधा लोधी के सामने की बात है, जो सिकंदर लोधी वाला जो इंसिडेंस है, और फिर वो मतलब उसके पहले ही बुढ़ापे में वो खुद ही मतलब संत की तरह एक कैरेक्टर है। तो मतलब ये पूरा लोई का कैरेक्टर उस 3 कालखंड में एक बहुत बड़ा विस्तार भी पा रहा है साथ में, जो मुझे दिख रहा है वहां। तो ये कैसे आपने थोड़ा सा के बारे में थोड़ा इलॉबोरेट करें इस पूरे प्रोसेस को, कि क्यों आपने 3 कालखंड चुना?
जो मेरी जो बात थी, जो लोकल मेरी जो मैं स्टडीज करना चाह रहा था, यही से पूरी हुई। अब उसमें उसका एक अलग चैलेंज था कि जब आप 25 साल अचानक आगे दिखा देते हैं, थिएटर के हिसाब से चैलेंज है, उनके एक्टर के हिसाब से चैलेंज है, वो सब है, लेकिन लोई एक जगह जैसे सब जगह लड़ती हुई दिखाई देती है, फाइटर लेडी है
जी,
बच्ची है, कबीर को जीवन में बचाती वहां दिखाई देती है। तो कबीर के जिस जिस हिस्से में उसका कंट्रीब्यूशन प्रमुखता से आता है, उस हिस्से को उभारने का की कोशिश का एक काम है। आप सोचिए, सबसे जब बेस्ट कॉम्प्लीमेंट मेरे पास आया इस नाटक का, सीमा मोदी थिएटर की एक एक्ट्रेस है, वो वेटरन एक्ट्रेस है, उन्होंने मेरे एक संपादक ने उनको किताब मेरी भेजी दी। उन्होंने कहा कि मैंने अपने यंग एज में इसका लोही का किरदार अदा किया था
जी जी
स्टेज पे, तो मेरे पास 2 मिनट का रोल था पूरे नाटक में, और जाहिर तौर पे भीष्म सानी का जो बड़ा खूबसूरत नाटक है कबीरा खड़ा बाजार में, उसमें भी 4-5 मिनट का रोल है। तो उन्होंने कहा, मेरे दिमाग में बार बार आता था कि क्या ये स्त्री जो इतने किसी तरह की नहीं होगी, इसके पास कोई संवाद ही नहीं है, इसके पास कोई चीज ही नहीं है, इसका कोई एक्सप्रेशन ही नहीं है, तो क्या ऐसी थी, तो कैसी थी? तो उन्होंने कहा कि अब जाके मुझे पता चला कि कैसी थी। तो जाहिर तौर पर ये तलाश मेरी अकेली नहीं थी, ये तलाश बहुतों की है जो कबीर को देखते हैं,
समझना चाहते जी,
और जो लोग चीजों की इस तरह से पड़ताल करते हैं। तो कईयों की पड़ताल थी, आप एक निमित्त बनते हैं कि आप क्योंकि उसको तलाशते हैं, उसको तलाश में उसको लिखते हैं और उस हिसाब से चीजें करते हैं।
थर्ड जो फेज आता है लोई का, वहां पे कमाल और जो बच्चों का जिक्र आता है, और मुझे लगता है कि थोड़ा सा आप उसको एलाबोरेट करेंगे तो लोगों को और बेहतर लगेगा। एक रोष है बच्चे का, एक साधु संत या हम लोग जो जितने लोग लिटरेचर में हैं वो अपने घर में जो समय कम दे पाते हैं, उसको आपने बहुत खूबसूरती से मुझे एज पाठक दिखा मुझे, तो मुझे लगता है उसको थोड़ा आप विस्तार दें।
ये उनके दोनों के जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट थे ये बहुत जगह दर्ज कि कमाल की और कबीर के जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है वो दर्ज, वो एक जनरेशन का भी चेंज है, एक पिता का भी चेंज है। पिता को लग रहा है कि पिता इसके बहुत बड़े आदमी है, इतने सारे चेले हैं, इतनी सारी चीजें हैं, और इस तरह से माँ की ओर देख रहा है कि माँ के साथ बहुत अच्छा नहीं चल रहा है और पिता भाग जा रहे हैं, तो उसके मन में जो दर्द है, लेकिन वो सवाल कर रहा है। अच्छी बात है कि घरों में ये सारे दर्द के बीच अगर बच्चे सवाल करते रहे तो उससे चीज आगे बढ़ती है। तो कमाल में वो सवाल कर रहा है, पिता जब लौट के आते हैं तो पिता से भी सवाल करता है। कुल मिला के हमने क्या किया कि आप सोचिए कि कबीर 650 वर्ष पहले हमने उनको भी ईश्वर बना दिया। कबीर की जो तस्वीरें कैलेंडर में रहती हैं वो ऐसे 5 हाथ ऐसे आशीर्वाद देते हैं, उनके पीछे मोर पंख लगा दिया। और मैं किसी की भावना को आहत किए बिना ये कहना चाहूंगा कि वो कबीर पंथी अपना एक अभिवादन उन्होंने बना लिया, एक तरह से कबीर को कुछ खास जातियों में बांट कर दिया। और एफ.ए. कोई ने जो किताब लिखी है 1910 से 1920 तक के बीच की यात्रा के आधार पे, मतलब अब से 100 वर्ष से भी ज्यादा समय की बात है कि उन्होंने दिया कि छत्तीसगढ़ में जो कबीरपंथी हैं, ये 1920 की बात है
जी।
हाँ। तो ऐसी कोई उन्होंने लिखा कि जो तब के कबीरपंथी हैं बनारस में अगर उनके गले की माला टूट जाती है तो जब तक उन्हें शोधित माला न मिले तब तक उनको खाना नहीं खाने को दिया जाता, इतना ज्यादा। दूसरा जो धर्मदास जो उनके शिष्य थे, जो छत्तीसगढ़ का जो सेक्टर था, वो लोग शादियों में कबीरपंथ के लोग 13वीं भोज का एक अलग विधान बनाया है। गद्दी पे उनके परिवार का रहेगा, क्योंकि उन्होंने कहा कि कबीर ने कहा था कि 40 पीढ़ियां तुम्हारी रहेंगी। कबीर के जीवन से मृत्यु तक सब चमत्कार जोड़ दिया कि पैदा हुए तो कमल के फूल पे और मरे तो चिड़ियों ने शव बांट लिया, वो की लड़ाई लड़ने लगे, फिर गायब हो गए, फूल आ गया। तो मेरा कबीर वैसा नहीं था, उसके जीवन में ऐसा कुछ नहीं घटा। तो एक तरह से रीइन्वेंटिंग कबीर भी था कि वो एक तार्किक व्यक्ति था, वह 10 उंगलियों से काम करने वाला आदमी था, वह 5 उंगलियों से आशीर्वाद देने वाला आदमी नहीं था। 10 उंगलियों से काम करने वाला जुलाहा, जो उसने पूरा एक समय को समाज को बदला। लोई उसकी पत्नी थी, उसकी साधारण नहीं थी, उसकी साथी थी, जिसने उसके साथ काम किया, उसके साथ जिया। तो एक तरह से रीइन्वेंटिंग कबीर भी था। और अपने समय के कबीर की मेरी तलाश थी, इसी पे छिपी हुई थी। तो रीइन्वेंटिंग कबीर, रीइन्वेंटिंग लोई, और इसको हम अपने काल में देखते हैं जिसके आपको लगता है कि जैसे आजकल की बात होगी।
इनफैक्ट आपने जो है मिथ को तोड़ते हुए जो मैंने देखा, प्रेम को के पक्ष को सामने रखा है, और कबीर ने जो लोई के लिए दुपट्टा बुना उसको आपने 2 बार एंड में भी उसको लेके आए हैं। शुरुआत में तो खैर बुन के गिफ्ट दिया ही है, पहली रात ही, और मैंने उसको देखा कि उस दुपट्टा भी एक किरदार की तरह उस नाटक में आता है पूरा। और एक संजोग है, मैं आपको भाई मैं शेयर करना चाहूंगा कि अभी अमृतलाल बेगड़ की किताब मैंने जस्ट खत्म की थी, लोई के पढ़ने की जस्ट पहले, और वहां पे एक कबीर भट्ट की बात आती है। उस यात्रा में, नर्मदा की यात्रा में एक कबीर भट्ट है, और हम कहते हैं जो ये मिथ है, ये मिथ कहाँ कहाँ ट्रेवल कर रहा है, और वहां पे अलग तरीके से कबीर के भक्त मनाते हैं पर्व। मैं इसका जिक्र है वहां पे, मैं सिर्फ आपको बताना चाह रहा था। तो आपका जो कन्वर्सेशन है लोधी के साथ, जो कबीर से कबीर का आपने करवाया, एक वहां और एक गंगा के घाट पे जो कन्वर्सेशन है जिसके कारण कबीर को फेंका जाता है, मुझे लगता है थोड़ा सा धर्म को जो आपने कबीर के थ्रू जवाब दिलवाया है या दिया है, जो भी आपने रखा है, थोड़ा हम सुनना चाहेंगे।
कबीर के जितने पद हैं वो मैंने नहीं लिखे।
जी।
कबीर का नाटक मैंने लिखा है, संवाद लिखा है। कबीर के जो सारे पद हैं वो सारे पद उन्हीं के समय के हैं।
जी, जी।
ये नाटक में मैंने संयोजित किया है उसमें कि दृश्य के हिसाब से चीजें आए। मैंने इसकी भूमिका में लिख दिया कि अगर आपको लगता है कि ये नाटक के ये सारे दृश्य काल्पनिक है तो आप इसे कल्पना मान लीजिए। आप अगर कबीरपंथी हैं, आपकी भावना की मैं कदर करता हूँ, अगर आपको लगता है कि लोई नहीं थी तो आप मान लीजिए लोई नहीं थी, मुझे कोई आपत्ति नहीं है। मैं 650 वर्ष पहले की एक स्त्री की पड़ताल कर रहा हूँ, उसे अतीत की रोशनी में देखने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, उसे समय के टार्च से उसके चेहरे पे डाल के मैं उसको पहचान दिलाने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ। इतना है, क्योंकि कई लोग पढ़ते समय कहते हैं तो लोई ने इस पे क्या किया, लोई ने ये क्या किया। अरे भाई, लोई ने पूरे जीवन जिया, तो पूरे नाटक में थोड़ी होता है लोई कभी सोई भी होगी थोड़ी लिखेंगे। मैं लोई की दिनचर्या थोड़ी लिख रहा हूँ, मैं लोई का नाटक लिख रहा हूँ। तो लोई के नाटक में जो दृश्य आपको जरूरी लगेंगे, जो दृश्य आपको अपील करेंगे, अभी हो सकता है कि जैसे सईद आलम उर्दू के एक बड़े ड्रामा निगार हैं और बड़े ही मेरे प्रिय नाट्य निर्देशकों में हैं, वो लोई पे काम कर रहे हैं। लोई का उर्दू वर्जन आ चुका है, उर्दू हिंदी मिला के वो काम कर रहे हैं। वो कह रहे हैं कि साहब इसमें 6-7 सीन निकाल दो, यहाँ से ये निकाल दो। तो ठीक है, आपकी स्वतंत्रता है। मैंने कहा आपका माध्यम है, तो मैं अब क्या है कि वो चीजें निकाल के वो अगर उतने में ही बात की कम्युनिकेट कर ले जाते हैं।
इनफैक्ट इस किताब को पढ़ते समय आपको ये बहुत सारे प्रश्न छोड़ जाती है। एज ए पाठक मैं अपना रिएक्शन दे रहा हूँ आपको, और जब आप सर्च करने लगते हैं तो आपको दिखता है कि लोई पत्नी है कि नहीं है, और क्या दोनों के दोनों गंगा में मिले अपने अपने पिता को। ऐसे बहुत सारे मिथ हैं। और तब मैं ढूंढते हुए एक जगह पहुंचा, मैं सोचा कि आपके सामने ही पढ़ दूंगा उस चीज को कि रे या में क्या मेरा क्या तेरा, लाज न मरही कहत मर मेरा, कहत कबीर सुनहो रे लोई, हम तुम बिनसी रहेगा सोई। तो वहां पे कबीर लोई को अपने पद में ला रहे हैं। तो जी जी, मैं वहीं पे आपको लाना चाह रहा था।
अब कई लोग कहेंगे लोई कबीर, लोई का अर्थ ये कहते हैं, लोई का अर्थ हरी कहते हैं। अरे बाप, छोड़ दीजिए, आप मान लीजिए लोई नहीं थी। आपको नहीं मानना है, आप बिल्कुल मत मानिएगा। आप नाटक को पात्रों की तरह पढ़िए, और अगर आपको लग रहा है कि एक तार्किक व्यक्ति अपने समय का आके खड़ा होता है तो आप उसको मानिए। आप सोचिए 1910 में फ्रैंकलिन अर्नेस्ट कोई ने यात्रा शुरू की। वो आदमी भटकते भटकते सारे कबीर मठों में गया। उसने कबीर एंड हिज फॉलोअर्स 1931 में लिखी, 1920 में उसने पीएचडी दाखिल की, और हजारी प्रसाद जी ने 50 से 60 के आसपास किताब लिखी। जितने कबीर साहित्य हैं 1850-60 के बाद का है। 1850 में वो रीवा के जो राजा साहब थे उन्होंने पोथा छपवाया था जो पद थे, तो उसके पहले का कोई डॉक्यूमेंटेशन है नहीं। कबीर तो जुलाहे थे तो काम करते थे। तो जितनी चीजें हैं सब जनश्रुतियों से चली आ रही है।
बिल्कुल,
तो जनश्रुतियों से चली आ रही है, सुना, उसमें कोई चीज जोड़ी, कई सारे संवाद उसमें मेरे जुड़े हो। अब इसको अब से 100 साल बाद, 50 साल बाद कोई पढ़ के कहे कि लोई कल्पना थी, कहीं नहीं था। इस तरह बहुत सारी चीजें जो आप पढ़ रहे हैं वो कल्पना है, लेकिन क्या वो चीज अपने समय को बयान कर पा रही है, क्या वो चीज अपने समय को बोल पा रहे हैं। आप उसको एकदम ISI का मार्ग मान के एक एक चीज पे चेक मत कीजिए। आप विचार के स्तर पे, आप कथ्य के स्तर पे चीज आपको छूती है, विचार के स्तर पे आपको उद्वेलित करती है। अगर ये 2 पैरामीटर्स पे खरी उतरती है तो आप उसको मान लीजिए। नहीं मानती है तो हर साल कई हजार किताबें छपती है, छोड़ दीजिए। समय के खेत में या तो कंपोस्ट खाद हो जाएगी या कोई अंकुरित होकर पौधा बनेगी, ये समय तय करेगा, ना मैं तय करूंगा ना आप।
अच्छा, एक जिज्ञासु बच्चा आपसे एक प्रश्न पूछना चाहेगा, एक अंतिम प्रश्न के पहले, कि जैसे विष्णु प्रिया या लक्ष्मी प्रिया 2 चैतन्य की पत्नियां हैं। यहाँ पे मैंने कहीं रमजानी का जिक्र पढ़ा था, मैंने इतना तो नहीं पढ़ा है, तो क्या कुछ है ऐसा कैरेक्टर रमजानी सेकंड पत्नी की तरह जैसे?
हमने
अच्छा,
तो कहीं मिला नहीं
हाँ,
उस तरह कैरेक्टर। और अगर वो कहीं लिखा भी है, कहीं दर्ज भी है, तो मैं उसे अपने जो नाटक है उसका हिस्सा नहीं बनाना चाहता।
ठीक।
मैं एक स्वतंत्र चेता एक स्त्री है जो खड़ी होके सिकंदर लोधी से कहती है कि सुल्तान तुम ये गलत काम कर रहे हो।
बिल्कुल।
वो स्त्री जो
बहुत शानदार।
जोगियों से कहती है, तब के जो जोगी थे वो डॉक्यूमेंटेड है कि हरिद्वार के घाटों पे बैरागी सन्यासियों से गंगा में पहले नहाने के लिए 450 बैरागी सन्यासियों की गर्दन उतार दी थी। उन बैरागी सन्यासियों को वो कहती है कि तुम सब अपनी माँ, जब वो कहते हैं कि हट हम लेख स्त्रियों से के भी नहीं लगते, किनारे है, तब वो कहती है तुम सब अपनी माओ के शापित हो, तुम्हारी माओ का शाप है तुमको, इसीलिए तुम जंगल जंगल भटकते हो। तो उनकी आंख में आंख डाल के उनसे ये सवाल कर सकने वाली एक स्त्री है। वो जो पंडों से टकराती है, पंडों से कहती है, वो जो सुल्तान से टकराती है, सुल्तान से कहती है। तो एक वो टकराती हुई स्त्री मुझे अच्छी लगती है, और उस स्त्री को मैं आज देखना चाहता हूँ, उस स्त्री को आज जीना चाहता हूँ। आज की तमाम सारी जो उस तरह की स्त्रियां लड़ती हुई दिखती हैं, उनमें मुझे लोई का अवश्य दिखता है। मुझे लगता है कि लोई की यात्रा में ये सारे लोग हैं, और कहीं उनकी प्रेरणा लोई में आती है और लोई की प्रेरणा उनमें आती है, और इन दोनों के बीच जो मेरे पास आता है उसको मैंने यहाँ लिखने की कोशिश
तो प्रताप भाई, अंतिम प्रश्न मैं आपसे पूछूंगा कि एज ए पाठक जो है, जब मैं लोई पढ़ रहा था तो मैं फिर बेचैन होता, क्योंकि वो नाटक में मुझे वो सिमटता हुआ किरदार दिखा नहीं। मुझे लगा कि अभी इसके विस्तार की जरूरत है। आप जरूर कुछ ना कुछ प्लान कर आइए, अकलाहट तो आपके अंदर भी आई होगी जरूर। तो
बहुत सारी चीजें जुड़ी, बहुत सारे लोग मिले मुझे उसके बाद। उस लिखने समय जो मेरी यात्राएं थी, जो संवाद थे, उसके बाद किताब के बाद तमाम सारे अलग अलग जगहों से लोग मिले, तो लोग मुझे भी लगा कि हाँ यहाँ बात बन सकती है, यहाँ चीज हो सकती है। तो मैं कर रहा हूँ कुछ कि इसको और
मतलब मैं तो अनुरोध करूंगा कि कुछ उपन्यास आए इसके ऊपर। जी जी जी। तो समय रेस्ट्रिक्ट कर रहा है हम लोगों को मैम सर, लेकिन मतलब बहुत कुछ बात करने का मन था, लेकिन आगे फिर बात होगी मंच के बाहर। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर।
And now for our penultimate session, we will have a conversation on the book Women Who Wear Only Themselves. So let me invite on the stage Mani Rao ji and Arundhati Subramaniam ji. If they're in here, I request them to please come up on the stage.
Yes, when that finishes, she'll be here.
So our panelists will be here in a while. So until then, maybe we can have a little break. Yeah, so as I was saying, for the penultimate session, we will have a conversation on women who wear only themselves. So now let me invite on the stage Arundhati Subramaniam ji and Mani Rao ji. Let's welcome them with a thunder of applause. So over to you, Mani ji.
Should we start? Yeah. Arundhati, so wonderful to be speaking to you here. It feels like we're just talking to each other and there's nobody else. We could just be in a cafe or something. But I mean, yes, exactly. So I want to start with talking, but can I just get your book? Yeah. So this is actually supposed to be a book launch. It's called Women Who Wear Only Themselves. So that's what it said on the program. Okay. Okay. So this is a very fascinating book. I read it probably about a year ago. And I want to start with talking about the title, Women Who Wear Only Themselves. And the subtitle is Conversations with Four Travelers on Sacred Journeys. This is a book about 4 women mystics. That's just for those of you who don't know about it. But if we can start with talking about the title, can you elaborate a little bit, Women Who Wear Only Themselves? What does that mean? What is it that they ought to be wearing otherwise, and what is it that they don't wear?
I know we have a few people here. I'm just trying to gauge because I would like to address you and them, and I want to know if there are actually some people in the audience that maybe actually 3 of those people who read the book.
Yes, how many of you have read the book?
No, none.
Maybe then tell us something about the book first, yeah.
And that's, I will answer your question. That to me is actually, it's implicated in the subject of the book. I think, here I go. I've been a seeker for as long as I can remember. Searching. I just read a poem about searching for God. And that's a big word. But I think I was searching for something more. And that something more remained indefinable. But I was searching desperately and feverishly. And I found that answers came, or wavering flashes, responses came in many guises. After a while, I found that books were not adequate, but the only kind of literature that made sense to me was the literature that was the poetry of the mystics. Mystics across the world, whether it was Hafiz or Rumi or St. John of the Cross or I'm sorry, can you just have a slightly lower volume up front there? Excuse me?
Maybe you could move your meetings outside, is that okay?
Let me just try to do the session. So, I found the mystic poets all over the world spoke to me. But the question that remained was, for me, where are the women? And while of course we have women, we hear them just in fragments. And I found that the fragments I heard was deeply unsatisfying. I did a book a little while ago, which is available here, called Eating God, which is an anthology of devotional poetry. And as I started putting that together, I realized for one that the women who few and far between, when they existed, these women poets, we all heard of Mirabai, but when I actually looked at Mirabai, my popular perception of Mirabai was of this decorative, demure, woman in white, lyrical, swooning, the kind of woman who seemed ornamental to me more than anything else. But when I actually read the poetry, and I was delighted that Rahul Soni, who's seated here, actually translated some of the poems of that book, I found a kind of ferocity and passion in those words that I never dreamt existed. So that was the beginning of a much more long-term project, Mani, of tuning into voices that I had either overlooked, and I realized that we were culturally encouraged to overlook, or else it was tuning into voices that I had overlooked.
Actually, just a very important point that you brought out here about how the women voices that exist are either stereotypical or they are of a certain kind, slotted into categories usually. As opposed to that, the women that you have focused on are different. All the four characters in your book, all the four people in your book are quite different from the Bahina Bai, Mirabai, Lal Ded. They're quite different from them. They are somehow more individualistic, somehow more themselves. You know, so if you could speak to that, elaborate on that.
That we have been encouraged not to see the Bahina and Jana and Meena as idiosyncratic beings, which I think they were. When you read this particular word translated by Rahul, since we're such a small crowd, I actually been trying to ask Rahul to come up and read it. But there's a poem in which Meena tells this bird, if you don't bring my lover to me, I will tear off your wings. I will rub salt on your beak. This is not a pretty Mirabai, right? This is a ferocious Mirabai. This is a disconcertingly savage Mirabai. And it was these tones that I wanted to tune into. And likewise with Janabai, likewise with so many of these other women. So while I was really working on this book that was a compilation of women's voices in mystic poetry, this was during the pandemic when all our lives were on pause, and I sat down on one very dark day in my life, and I said, what is it that really sustains me in these strange times? And I found it was the voices of two women whom I had interviewed in the past decade. And that's when I felt this is the book that needs to interrupt my larger project, Women Mystic Poets. This is the book that needs to happen because the women whose voices are ringing in my ears, though I love my Mirabai and I love my Anandam and I love my Akamahani, and I want to celebrate all of them and I will. But the women whose voices are ringing in my ears are women who are contemporary women. And I think that's what makes them in some ways so compelling, that they live today. They are around even as we speak, leading utterly extraordinary lives.
I think, yes, I think history has created a certain softening or a certain glossing over of some of the other characters who are absolutely individual in their own right. And the focus on the contemporary women is what comes through in your book, as well as the fact that they are not seeking public personalities. That is another feature that I would point out to the readers, that these people are not looking for promotion on platforms. They are individuals seeking in their own spaces. So if you could talk a little bit to that, because that is characteristic of these figures.
I think it was paramount to tune into the lives of four women who are not projecting themselves as the major gurus of their time, four women who walk their own spiritual path in utterly diverse ways. And when you ask about the title, Women Who Wear Only Themselves, the title suggested itself because these four women have exercised such vastly different choices. Spiritually, sartorially. There's one woman on the path of Tantra, there's one woman on the path of Bhakti, there's one woman who is a renunciate, there's another woman for whom being in a relationship was very significant in her spiritual journey. There's one woman who chooses to cast off all clothing and walk the world naked, just like the Akaman ladies and ladies before her, who have been unfortunately flattened out in some ways. This woman hasn't. She sits there in all her glorious three-dimensionality, glorious presence. And then there's another woman who chooses to cast off ochre and wear blue jeans on occasion. There's another woman who chooses to wear the apparel of a monk. So in very real ways, they seem to me to be women exercising such different choices
Non-conformist, I would say also, right?
Non-conformist, but I was teaching to themselves.
True to themselves.
Someone else, the life of a monk, is he terribly conformist.
And this leads us back to the title about women who wear only themselves. It reminds me of the word Digambara, which is the opposite, meaning that the directions are the clothes, the disha, the directions are the clothes. And here it is not even that. Nakedness or nudity or selfness is not being defined by directions, but by oneself. And that is what is so interesting about the title, that they wear only themselves. In a lot of the scholarship that has been done on women saints, I find that there's been a fair amount of analysis on how women are categorized as matajis. They usually pitched as mothers because that is how people can respect them. And I know that these characters, these personalities are not, well, some of them are public figures also. They do have small followings, otherwise you wouldn't have known about them at all. Like Lata does have a number of people who are admirers and follow her work or her path. And the book kind of also puts them into the limelight. Do you think there is like a chemical reaction going to happen from the fact that you have projected them? And you know, I don't know if you know of Mama Lola, the voodoo priest in New York City. Karen McCarthy Brown wrote a book on Mama Lola, and the fact of the existence of the book changed her status and her relationship to the author, and actually changed her whole life after that. So anyway, if you would talk to that, you specifically chose private people and you have put them on a platform.
Many years ago, when I read Paramahansa Yogananda's autobiography, The Yogi, and I shot the book, and if I were to look back on that book, what stays with me is just personal encounters with extraordinary people. And this deep sense of a connection between this interlocutor and the people who we encounter. To me, this is what the journey is about. It's about deep connections that we make. They don't last very often. It could just last for days or hours. But in that moment, in those moments, two lives have overlapped in a certain way. To me, this was my way of honoring that woman.
So it is a relationship that comes to the fore?
I think so. I think almost in each one of them, I don't claim to offer you their life story. What I claim to offer is only the texture of a conversation.
The perspectives, the attitudes, yeah.
It's very much a conversation in which I'm a listener primarily. But I want to be a listener, but I'm inviting you to listen to these people and how they shifted something ever so slightly in my life in the course of these 4 hours. That's the invitation. So, was I aware that they were, lesser known women who might in fact be catapulted in some ways to the kind of limelight that they were not necessarily seeking? Yes, perhaps I was aware that would be a possibility. And I feel it will unfold the way that it's meant to. That's the spiritual traveler in me speaking, that I think it will unfold for them as well, and for hopefully for me in the way that it's meant to. All I'm trying to do is to share the fragrance of 4 women and my conversations with them as I listen to them, what unfolded. But there was a question you had about the ways in which women are so often perceived by the mother figure. That's often the way in which many of us prefer to relate to the women saints whom we encounter. And I would say that this book also arose from my discomfort, not just from needing to materialize all these women, but my discomfort with the word surrender that is used so often in our spiritual journeys, and particularly when it comes to women, for whom the word is used so often. We hear about it all the time in romantic literature, cultural stereotyping of every kind returns to the word surrender. It is such an overused word, such an abused word, such a malign
such a power-based word.
Yes. And so the question is really, how does one understand what the journey calls us? What does it really require? That was a burning question. And I often feel in my own journey, had I found other voices that articulated ideas of receptivity differently, it would have shifted something for me. I had to learn when, stumbling and falling on the way. I had a guide, but it took me time to understand what this was about. So I think having these women to have these conversations with, maybe in a small way, could offer a stepping stone for someone else. I think that's what stories offer. The sense that a journey has been made before. You are not walking this journey for the first time. You are not alone. That is something I think many of us yearn to hear.
Would you like to share an anecdote or so from the book so that audience gets some feel for some of the texture, as you call it? We talked about non-conformism. We talked about how they are not really Matajis. They are private. And it's the conversation that comes to the fore.
The reason I'm actually pausing at this point is I'm trying to see if there is a way to make this book ready to Eating God, which I know is available here. The book is available. I know someone who speaks up, who picked it up. And to Wild Women, which you also should integral part. So I see this really as a continuum. And can I pause and ask the audience, do you want to hear more about this book? Do you want to hear more about these women? Or do you want to have another kind of conversation? Because we are quite open at this point, both Annie and I.
This morning we called it free-flowing Kalinga.
That's right. We're not open to more free-flowing Kalinga conversations. So if there is anyone here who would like this conversation to get in a certain direction, we're very happy to pick up that cue and go with it. Yes, no. Or I'm stunned into silence like I was in the previous session and feeling a little inarticulate.
Have people come to you and said, can you give me the phone numbers of these women? No. No. Okay. I get that all the time with the mantra book. People always contact me and saying, please, can I have the coordinates of this person or that person? Absolutely.
Well, I think Google is there. And I wonder whether I'm not sure that's the way it was received. I think what I did here this is what I heard from people who read the book. This woman, she is the real thing. And each of them is the real. So it's interesting. This tells me so much about the reader. What readers never realize is that I was actually learning much more about them than what is about the book when they give feedback. So whenever a reader says, that's the woman who's the truly free woman in the book, I would say, I see, and tell you more, I would just listen. For me, each one of those four women is exemplary. Each one of those four women is riveting. Each one of those four women is powerful and authentic and worthy of attention. But I think depending on one's own constitution and one's own temperament, one is often drawn to one kind of this. So there are those who are drawn to the more intellectual, there are those who are drawn to the more ecstatic, there are those who are fascinated by the figure of the monk. What kind of woman chooses to give up everything, in this case a marriage, and walk out of marriage and enter the monkhood? What kind of woman is that? So these are the sorts of questions in people's minds. And there is the fourth woman who to me is fascinating again and again because she starts out as a recognized or moderately celebrated yogini. And she actually has to push back against that and say, I refuse to be a celebrity on your terms. And that's when she gives up yoga, slips into her blue jeans, and finds that she is still a woman on the spiritual path. And then she becomes what I call the reluctant guru. The guru who realizes this is her calling, this is her vocation, irrespective of the roles imposed on her from without. When she starts looking at herself, she realizes this is So there are all kinds of exciting tensions for me in those stories, you know?
I'm sure you're not going to, even if I was going to ask you the question, which of these personalities is like your favorite or what do you relate to? And I thought, well, she's not going to tell us because that wouldn't be fair. So,
I remember, you know, this anecdote from popular culture. This is one thing that always stayed with me. I remember watching an interview with Raj Kapoor, and he says, you know, it's your the film that does the least, you know, it's like the least that becomes your favorite. So every time someone tells me they're drawn to one woman, I'm immediately on their side of the others. Because I would say this is quite true. I'm a director, so maybe friends of mine have told me this, that they have a friend amongst the actors they work with, but when they're behind the camera, suddenly everything shifts. It's almost as if the camera becomes a kind of democratizing vehicle, agent. Suddenly, each one of those actors is important. So I think for me, each one of these four women, and I mean this very truly, and utterly sincere, each one of those women is hugely exciting.
you know, I really applaud how you've opened a window into some of the intricacies of their thinking and the conversation, their philosophy, their journey, etc. In India, particularly, I find that when we travel to, let's just call them spiritual places, there are hundreds of people, men and women. You're all the time running into people. You hear about somebody who has lived in the caves of Gangotri and beyond, or Gomukh. Or you hear always stories, and you see people who are in Maunam for 5 years, 10 years. There are numerous stories, but they are not available for us to enter into unless you actually go there, sit down, live there, probe it. And you have done that groundwork for us by selecting a range of 4 personalities and voices. And that is amazing that you did that. I really like that you brought that out from those inaccessible spaces, which only those who travel out there get. Yeah.
There are so many, and that is one of the great privileges of living in the subcontinent, honestly. Almost everyone, when I talk about Annapurni, I'm the first woman in the book, I say that almost everyone has seen, anyone who's lived in this country, has seen out of the corner of their eye some Buddha somewhere. You know, we all know the mad saint. Somewhere, we knew about it from the, you know, somewhere, the places passed by, the village we lived in, somewhere or the other, we've all seen that crazy saint. But the point is, we're living in cultures that don't necessarily prioritize that anyway. So that is no longer seen.
And of the women as well. Yeah.
Particularly.
Yeah.
It's a noisy session going on next door, so I think maybe we should start winding up.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to maybe read from Eating God? Is that something that's...
Maybe we should just make this interactive and call Rahul up to read his Meena by poem.
Or do you want to maybe tell people what Wild Women is about, since that's going to be launched very soon? And it's sort of like a trajectory. If you say Eating God and then Women Who Wear Only Themselves and then Wild Women, it's like a trajectory. So if maybe you could lead towards that moment coming up soon.
Well, Wild Women is about women-mystic poets down the centuries, some whom we know or thought we knew, many of whom we didn't know at all, or I didn't, certainly. Some of them have a regional readership or listenership. Many of them are unknown in a pan-Indian level. So it's really primarily a book of women mystics. Most of the book is women mystics, but there are 2 more sections of the book, which I felt were necessary to complete it. So the second small section is male poets who channel the female voice, and what that does to the male poet and the timbre of his voice. And the third section is goddess poems, which I felt just needed to be there. That we needed to have the woman as seeker, but we also needed to have the woman as sought. And it's in the goddess poem section that I'm delighted that I was able to use founder everything. And that is becoming an integral part of that third section of the book. And we're going to push out in March, and I hope for some of you feel even a modicum of curiosity about people who ask questions. You know, we think that asking questions is just a prerogative of those who write about politics. But policy very deeply today, the way in which the word bhakti has been abused. We use the word bhakti to talk about those who just passively adhere to writing to politics. When in fact bhakti is a spirited, audacious, sometimes erotic, often argumentative relationship with the divine. And I think that's what these poems are about. I hope this is an attempt in some ways to reclaim bhakti for ourselves, its explosive potential for ourselves. And I think in some way in doing that, we become much more ourselves as well. This becomes our journey. It's not a journey out there that happened to some woman 5 centuries ago who left her in-laws and her family distant to Chittor. It happens now to us. How we choose to navigate these journeys of self-reclamation is up to us, but it helps to know that we have ancestors. We have women who are role models. We have women who are our sisters and our mothers and our friends who walked this journey before us. We are not alone in that. These women were not just followers. These women were not just meek songsters. These women were our ancestors. And I think men and women alike feel the need for that kind of ancestry. An ancestry that's not lost.
On that note, thank you so much. I don't see any questions. I think it's because they're all in deep meditative states.
Thank you so much. It's always good to have you.
Yes. Awards after the year.
Okay.
That's why I was. And now for our final session, I would like to ask Ved Prakash ji to please come up on the stage and continue with the proceedings.
नमस्कार केएलएफ द्वितीय दिवसर शेष अर्घ्य आपण समस्त सम्मुखें आज परिवेषण हम आ मात्र अल्प समय पर आम ओडिया कविता शुणा ओडिया कवितार जुवस्वर समस्त उपस्थित अच्छा मात्र अल्प समय भितर आज जो औज्जल्यमय कार्यक्रम ओडिया युवकवि मानकर स्वर आम समस्ते शुणा मु समस्त दर्शक मानक अनुरोध करी आम सहित किछि समय अपेक्षा करेंगे तापर आम ये कार्यक्रम को आरंभ करिबा।